on about the war. Writing online this morning, Trump says the only deal will be, quote, unconditional surrender. He also says after Iran surrenders and picks a, quote, great and acceptable leader, then the U.S. and its allies will work to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction. Israel is continuing to strike the suburbs of Lebanon's capital, Beirut. It's targeting the Iranian-backed militants Hezbollah. The militants have fired into northern Israel. NPR's Hadil Al-Shelshi reports the Lebanese government is distancing itself from Hezbollah.
Lebanese Justice Minister Adel Nassar said he instructed security officials to arrest those in Hezbollah who launched rockets into Israel earlier this week. In an interview with NPR, Nassar said that authorities had arrested a number of people with weapons at checkpoints while fleeing the south and that they were being investigated.
Although we condemn the reaction of Israel, it remains that we have a major problem with Hezbollah. Hezbollah takes unilaterally decisions provoking major damages to the population and to the country as such.
While Hezbollah still enjoys popularity in Lebanon, more and more are blaming it for dragging the country into an unnecessary war. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Beirut.
There have been questions about whether NATO could get drawn into the war. NATO defenses shot down a missile flying toward Turkish airspace this week. Turkey is a NATO member. Says at this time, NATO involvement is unlikely.
It would require a general perception that this is an attack on a NATO country, that Iran is somehow trying to attack Turkey or attack Cyprus and with the intent of taking that over. No one has that real perception right now. These are perceived as one-offs.
He spoke to NPR's Morning Edition. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is highlighting President Trump's decision to fire Homeland Security Secretary Christie Gnome. From member station WBEZ, Mawa Iqbal has more.
Governor Pritzker quickly released a video with a message for Gnome.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
President Trump fired Gnome, who earlier this week was grilled by U.S. senators and representatives for her role in DHS's deportation campaigns in Chicago and Minneapolis last fall. Illinois' governor says that if confirmed, Gnome's replacement, Senator Markwayne Mullen, has a low bar to clear.
We saw shootings and we saw breaking the law. We saw corruption under Christie Gnome. And so not sure you could do worse.
Pritzker also set up a mock LinkedIn profile of Gnome that listed her as open to work and an unlicensed dog euthanizer. For NPR News, I'm Mawa Iqbal in Springfield, Illinois.
On Wall Street, the Dow is down nearly 500 points. That is about 1%. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. House Minority Whip Catherine Clark says President Trump's firing of Homeland Security Secretary Christie Gnome, quote, does not undo what she has unleashed on this country, unquote. Clark says Gnome has made Americans less safe and turned ICE into a paramilitary force that is evoking terror in law-abiding communities.
She's allowed American citizens to be shot and killed in cold blood without apology. No one will miss Christie Gnome, but our work is not done in holding this reckless president and his other cabinet members accountable.
Trump has named Republican Senator Markwayne Mullen of Oklahoma to replace Gnome, awaiting confirmation on that right now. Several Massachusetts state senators, including 3 who represent Worcester County, are calling on members of Congress to reassert their constitutional authority over decisions that could expand U.S. military involvement overseas. The Worcester Guardian reports that in a letter released yesterday, members of the Massachusetts Senate expressed support for efforts in Washington to advance a war powers resolution forcing congressional approval before the U.S. engages in further hostilities with Iran. The state senators wrote that the recent military actions highlight the importance of Congress maintaining its constitutional role in decisions involving war. The letter was signed by dozens of senators, including Worcester area legislators John Cronin, Robin Kennedy, and Michael Moore. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, investing in creative thinkers and problem solvers who help people, communities, and the planet flourish. More information is available at hewlett.org.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Eakin. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. On Monday, representatives from the Franklin Park Defenders, the group opposing Mayor Wu's White Stadium plan for a professional soccer team, will join us here in Studio 3. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library on Tuesday. Mayor Wu will be with us on Tuesday. 25th will be the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, and the 27th will be Maura Healey, all at the library. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You know, Henry Santor just played sound from Congresswoman Catherine Clark, who says the firing of Christie Gnome does not undo what she... That is, of course, true. But if you'll allow us and yourselves a moment of indulgence, she is out at Homeland Security. And we know she has another job, sort of like an Avengers kind of job or whatever it is. But it doesn't change the fact that Trump was so disenchanted with her because he outed her. She outed him, essentially, on a decision that he fired her in this publicly humiliating way. So we're just going to take a few minutes to reflect on her rise and fall. And regardless of your politics, Schadenfreude is hard to beat. Would you not agree? When you see somebody who's caused great pain to other people, how satisfying is it when they get what they deserve? It doesn't get much better than that.
You know, she lost me at cricket,
okay,
the 14-month-old that she murdered in cold blood. Devastating her daughter.
Well, Tom Tillis did a great job.
Yeah, he
Senator,
did a great
too.
job.
The number's 877-301-8970. Call or text. If you're luxuriating in the firing of Christie Gnome, give us a buzz. And if you want to talk about whether or not this will change anything, a la the Catherine Clark comment that we have a lot of damage that she has done to undo. Of course, some of those things, the 2 killings in Minnesota and the 1 in Texas, can't be undone. 877-301-8970. You know what's most incredible about this? I know this is mentioned, but I got to say it. It didn't matter to Trump that she was responsible for leading an organization that killed 2 American citizens. And I would argue you can make a case without all the evidence in that was murder, not just killings.
Trump said nasty things about Freddie too, right?
Okay.
Very bad. Nasty.
Well, early on. Well, particularly Renee Good. He said that she ran over the officer. That didn't matter to him. What mattered is when Republican Senator from Louisiana, Kennedy, asked her if Trump had approved those softcore porn ads of her on a horse in front of Mount Rushmore for $220 million. She said yes twice. That was what did it. Now, I would say he's lying. But whether he's lying or not.
I think we know he's lying because they had a piece of her speaking. I think she was at CPAC when she talked about, this is a long time ago, when she talked about how he asked about her ads in South Dakota and encouraged her to do ads like that all over the country. So he knew she was doing, I'm sure he saw some of the ads. So I don't think that he's necessarily telling the full truth.
And by the way,
there.
the ads, if you haven't seen them or confirm this is after she had the head transplant. Is that correct?
Well, you know, there's a great story by Vanessa Friedman in the New York Times when this is before Trump's reelection, when she was kind of lobbying to be the vice president for him, and how she turned herself into a Trump woman. And there's a certain things you have to have the really long hair. Lots of people think they're hair extensions. It comes down, flowing down half your back. You have to wear the spike heels. You have to have really big lips. You have to kind of a full transplant. You have to look like a powerful woman, but somebody who's kind of defanged by her
How about the
outfit.
teeth? She had the teeth done.
Yeah, that was
apparently
first.
in part.
The teeth was early on. She had a whole thing about the teeth, but she said she lost some teeth in an accident with her kids. I think she was riding bikes.
Yeah.
But she never said what was wrong with the teeth, that she had to have this complete teeth makeover, but she did a big ad about that with several different shots of her teeth.
Okay, we got to get to this. We should be playing, if we were responsible talk radio hosts, the sound of Senator Kennedy asking the question about the $220 million. But of course, we won't play that.
ProPublica, congratulations
Brilliant
to them.
reporting.
Brilliant
But
reporting.
what we will play instead is Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse asking Christie Gnome, this is at the hearing a couple days ago, to look at a photo of a bedroom on the jet that she rides on. Here it is.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior. Looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. We used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom?
In fact, we spent $1.42 billion on ICE deportation flights last year. I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it.
How great is White House? Does it have a bedroom in it? Does it have a bedroom in it?
Well, I got to say, I'm getting my Gloria Steinem hackles up here. There's a certain amount of sexism here. I mean, no one is accusing her of sexually assaulting Corey Lewandowski. If they were carrying on, they were carrying on, you would presume, in a consensual way. We got a whole cabinet, not to mention the president,
of sexual abusers
that have been accused of criminal sexual assault. Nobody's hauling them in to ask about the details of what they did.
Does that mean you can't? I agree with you completely, but does that mean you can't enjoy her getting a public humiliation?
I must admit, I do enjoy it. And nobody, don't forget that when they had to change planes, when she and Corey were flying wherever they were flying, and the pilot or somebody on the airplane forgot to transport her blanket from one airplane to the next airplane. Corey apparently stormed into the cockpit as the plane was gaining altitude to demand, ask about the blanket. And when they couldn't produce it, fired the pilot.
Well, fired him for like 2 minutes until they realized they had nobody to fly the plane, at which point they rehired. My favorite part of this, though, you know that she has a job. She is now the special envoy to the Shield of Americas.
Because Trump liked her.
What is the Shield of Americas?
Trump liked her. She transformed herself. She did a complete makeover.
The job didn't
herself.
exist the day before yesterday, Marjorie.
He got her a new job.
Okay,
he had to get rid of her. I mean, it was a little bit too much. But I think that she's another person who tried to ingratiate herself to him for all these months. In the end, it wound up badly, not as badly as it could have, because at least she still got some kind of income.
Now, by the way, there's a very serious policy aspect. No, the thing Catherine Clark mentioned. She did a lot of damage, led to some deaths, abuse of people. But we're taking a break. If you want to get into that, it's fine. We're taking a brief break to say how satisfying it is that when somebody is an evildoer,
she's cruel. She's really cruel
and totally corrupt.
You know what? One of the cruelest things she did, and it was just so cruel.
Other than killing the dog,
that was bad, and the goat that she killed right after that, and leaving her poor daughter to get off a school bus to see the carnage that her mother created to the family dog. When she went down to that prison in El Salvador
with the $50,000 Rolex,
Rolex watch, and she stood in front of those prisoners in like a triumphant kind of, I mean, she's just a very cruel person, but then Trump is cruel. So I think and Stephen Miller's cruel. Hegseth is cruel. I mean, there's a lot of cruelty in that cabinet.
The number's 877-301-8970. You have two choices. You can talk about the implications from a policy perspective. Senator Mullen from Oklahoma is now going to be head of Homeland Security, assuming he's confirmed. Do you think anything will change? Remember, there is still a partial shutdown over ICE rules.
He's got two names.
I know. No, it's one name. He said they're combined in one. It's not like like Bobby Joe.
Like Billy Joe?
No, it's not. It's like one name combined kind of thing.
I think you should ditch one of them.
You can talk about that.
Wayne or Mark.
And you can talk about the satisfaction you feel that she got her comeuppance, for lack of a better expression. Lynn in Scituate, you're first on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
I just want to talk about her a little bit and the things that she had done specifically with the dog and saying this is just how life is out in the Dakotas.
Yeah.
I'm from North Dakota. I grew up there. My family has land there. We have a lot of animals. There's a lot of hunting. What she did, and she specifically wrote in the book that she hated that dog.
Hated him.
Which means she did that out of anger. And that means that she did it in her emotions, and that says something about her judgment too. And she turned around and applied that to humans, and I am delighted to see her gone. She is so despised by most of the people that I know that are in that area of the country, and I pray to God that he is not going to be her replacement, because he's just another violent idiot.
Mark Wayne?
He is a tough guy
Mark?
kind of thing. He's very confrontational in his speech and thing. By the way, did you hear, we're going to play just in light of what you called about, Lynn, the first few seconds of outgoing Senator Thom Tillis criticizing her for virtually the same reasons you did, including what you said, that it's a reflection on her leadership capabilities. Thanks for the call, Lynn. Here's just a couple of seconds of Tillis's criticism of Gnome during the Senate hearing the other day.
The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, and you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices.
And by the way, while Tillis deserves a lot of praise, it bears mentioning again, he's a retiring United States senator, not one who is running for re-election, even though I assume most farmer senators would probably agree with him.
And you know what was another moment we shouldn't forget? She made this deal there that any expenditure over $100,000 she had to okay. And remember how that delayed FEMA
stuff,
getting to the camp in Texas where those children all died in that flood? I mean, she did
correct me if I'm wrong.
Incompetency.
Well, she had to approve those. Didn't she say in her testimony, I'm not 100% sure I'm right, that she knew nothing about the $100+ million contract that went to the husband of her former staff person that was a no-bid contract? I mean, $100 and some million she didn't know anything about. But anything over...
You think about it in life.
Yeah.
If you were going to hire somebody, never mind in your home, but just at work, and one of the things they came in and bragged to you about is how they were really tough because they shot their dog, a puppy, a 14-month-old. I mean, wouldn't you right away say, this is not the person
Well, actually,
I want?
you know who, before Gnome, obviously you know who his first choice for DHS was. Hannibal Lecter was his... But... Lecter turned it down. To his credit, Lecter said, I'm not doing this. I'm not working for Trump. He is too cruel for me. Let's go to Nick in Connecticut. Nick, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show, Nick. Hi.
Hey there.
Hey there.
So, yeah, there is a bit of schadenfreude with this. It is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not particularly bothered by the suggestion that she has had a long-running affair because, frankly, I don't know what her relationship is. I don't know what his relationship with their respective partners is. I have a problem that they did it on our dime, and I have a problem that they can spend so much money on private jets, Kash Patel and all these other people included. But the long and short of it is we're getting a replacement by someone who can't string two words together and try to pick a fight with Sean O'Brien during a Senate hearing.
Oh, I forgot.
that's
He
right.
threatened to punch out the head of the Teamsters.
Thank you for
I
reminding
forgot,
us
Nick.
about
Go ahead.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, we can have a bit of schadenfreude because it also doesn't seem like she was made aware of it, while she was giving sworn testimony at the time. So it looked like the rug was pulled out from under her. However, she's going to get some paycheck from the government with whatever BS thing this Shield of America's thing is. And none of it had anything to do with her job performance until she said that Trump knew about an ad campaign that is ultimately a drop in the bucket.
Exactly.
Like, it is absolutely ridiculous. So, people can be psyched. I don't want to hear a single word from people saying that this has anything to do with, a change in tone or policy. No, none of it has changed. Same with Tom Homan and Bovino. People are terrible, and they deserve to all be in court.
Nick, you totally I agree with everything. And by the way, one thing you left...
She may wind up in court because they're going to pursue investigations in Minneapolis. She may get hauled in.
It's not inconceivable. I don't know what the statute of limitations is. It's 3 years from now, assuming there's a Democratic administration. No, on the... Having $100+ million of government funding go out with a no-bid contract to a husband of a former staff person might be illegal. By the way, Nick, thanks for your call. The only thing I would add to your litany of things that do matter around her is she lied, or in terms of Corey Lewandowski, is she lied about his power. And incidentally, Marjorie and I know I speak for her, we don't care what she does in terms of having affairs or whatever kind of thing. The issue is, how does it affect your performance and your I felt kind of about the role of your lover.
For her husband sitting right behind her.
Yeah, but that's his
when
business.
He was asked.
I'm with Nick on this.
But there is a definite double standard here. I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah, we're not hearing about everybody else's and criminal activities involving sex, never mind their affairs.
Now, I want you to know we've shown great self-restraint because people who are regular listeners in the show probably are saying, I cannot believe they have not played Christie Gnome explaining what habeas corpus is not to New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan. So just to make us feel better, here's a little bit of what happened in May 2025.
constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am.
Suspend their
Habeas
right
corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Okay, so it's not only incorrect, it is so incorrect that it's almost whatever. In any case.
She also ordered that raid in Chicago when the helicopters came down with Bovino and they went into that apartment building and pulled people out in the middle of the night, the vast majority of whom, it turns out, were not people that had committed any crimes, or some of them, there might have even been a couple of American citizens there. I'm not sure. I shouldn't say that for sure. I don't know. But the other thing with her was the outfits. You know, I mean, she's dressing up like a Navy SEAL with the night glasses and the helmet and the long gun. Then she's
like
dressing
cosplay,
up as a firefighter.
Yeah.
They called her Ice Barbie because she had more outfits than Barbie. You know, Barbie has all the different outfits you can buy. The thing and the cowgirl thing and
we're posting them right now. That's a great one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, a million different outfits. Yeah. And I guess some of the real people were criticizing because her bulletproof vest was wrongly worn, or she had the wrong latches fastened or something.
Nick
that.
mentioned a minute ago that which we had forgotten, that he challenged Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters, who, by the way, is from here, Local
That's
25,
right.
But he's now the international president. Our colleagues just pulled sound of Mullen getting yelled at by, I think Bernie Sanders was the chair of that committee at the time when he tried to fight Sean O'Brien. Here it is.
You want to run your mouth? We can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution? Every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay. Sit down, please. All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it.
Yeah, that's like, doesn't that remind
Sanders.
you of Clinton and Trump in that debate? You're a puppet. No, you're a puppet. You're a puppet. No, you're a puppet. By the way, we have a YouTube poll posted. 79% of the respondents do not have a comfort item like Christie Gnome and her blankie. Well, that's interesting. Thomas and Waltham, welcome. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So my problem with Gnome isn't any of what you guys are talking about. It's that she's just incompetent. We've got millions of people in this country who aren't allowed to be here, and she's not doing a good enough job getting them out. So I hope the next guy does better.
Yeah, Thomas, obviously you don't read the newspaper or anything. She is essentially, under her watch, they have closed the borders, number one. And number two, one of the reasons why they're doing so poorly at getting the worst of the worst out, which I assume you support, is because they're so busy trying to meet Stephen Miller's quotas every day that they have to deport people like people who have done nothing wrong, and some of whom are citizens. Did you miss those stories, Thomas?
Can you name a citizen who got deported who wasn't a toddler?
Wasn't a what? Well, excuse me.
A toddler.
How about a toddler? Why are we excluding
toddlers? The guys at the Targets, they turned out to be citizens. Some of the people in that building in Chicago
there
turned out to be
them.
citizens. I can't give you the names, but I know there's got to be dozens of them at this point.
All right. Well, there's millions of people who aren't allowed to be here. I've said my piece. Have a good day.
You said your piece
thank you.
Poorly. Thank you for your call.
No, I think what people did want, and rightly so, they did want the border closed. They did want people that were bad actors, bad hombres, as Trump used to say, and still do want to get people out of here that are have done terrible crimes. But what we've learned is that 70% of the people
have
that
no
have
criminal
been
record.
They have no record, and it wasn't a criminal record to cross the border unless you crossed the border, got thrown out, and then came back. If you just did it the first time, it's a civil offense. It's not even a criminal offense.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, and we're talking about, and by the way, there are clearly, I want to repeat in light of a couple of callers, there are tons of things that deserve mention about the cruelty, incompetence, corruption, and theft of Christie Gnome. But we figure we'd take a break for 20 minutes and talk about the glee with which some of us greeted her summary dismissal yesterday by Donald Trump.
And relative to what the former caller said, too, there are people that helped the American servicemen in Afghanistan who've been deported. There are people who are here under protective custody. What do you call it?
TPS, temporary protected status.
Yeah, so they were here legally. They are getting thrown out. The Haitians were threatened. They're not being threatened. So there's all sorts of law breaking. That's the issue. They have done this in a very lawless way, not to mention coming into people's homes, barging into people's homes, firearms
with no
long
warrants.
guns without warrants. So they're not following the law, Thomas. They're breaking the law all over the place.
Jane in Concord, welcome. Hi.
Hi, I agree with you guys as usual.
Okay.
And we have to remember that Donald Trump is the one who's appointing all these unqualified people because it's easy to blame them. And as much as I don't want to be making fun of the women, it is worth looking at the before and after pictures of the Mar-a-Lago face.
Yeah, incredible.
Look at Christie Gnomes, but also look at Laura Trump and Kimberly Guilfoyle. You won't believe how pretty they were before they underwent the Trump procedures.
Yeah.
And I resent that Christie Gnome said that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. And one other outfit, Marjorie, is her tank top in El Salvador.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Before you go ahead, also her answer, which we played the other day, when she was asked the question about calling Preddy and Good domestic terrorists, and her response, instead of apologizing as she was asked to, said, no, I said they had committed domestic terrorism, as if that's any different.
Terrorism.
I mean, just grotesque and cruel.
Well, I think she was afraid of doing anything, of Trump until it got to the $200 million for the ads, and then she kind of threw him under the bus.
Well, I don't think, I think, thank you, Jane, for your call. I think you said threw him under the bus. I think she just told the truth, that he did know about the ads. She said twice yes to the question from Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. It never occurred to her she's throwing him under the bus because she assumed that was perfectly fine, and the ads were perfectly fine.
Well, as I said
and by the way, if you haven't seen these ads, I call them softcore porn. You should Google them. They're her on a horse riding in front of. Well, I mean, she's from South Dakota, so I mean,
that's what they do in South Dakota.
They ride horses.
Yeah.
Is what they do.
Billy Bob or Michael Wayne or whatever his name is. Does he know how to ride horses? We'll have to find out.
By the way, there are a decent number of Democrats, for whatever it's worth. He's not my cup of tea. There are a decent number of Democratic senators who said they're going to vote for him, not just John Fetterman, who obviously said to vote for him.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, it's our Press Play Media Analysis segment with political commentator Anand Giridharadas. We're so happy to talk to him. We're going to talk to him about the Epstein class. He's doing a deep dive on that. And we will get the scoop. And he's also got a great new book coming out, which he's going to tell us about. Anand Giridharadas coming up for our Press Play. You're listening to GBH, BPR on NEPM as well.
This weekend, dig into something new on GBH 89.7. From landscaping.
Most of my succulents that I overwinter in a southern window, I water them once a week.
To DIY excellence.
Paint and primer combo to me is sort of like, the low-fat food craze. This is just silly branding.
The Garden Lady and This Old House Radio Hour. Saturdays starting at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Safety Insurance, offering a variety of home insurance products to cover your home's increased value. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms. And Vivo Performing Arts Jazz Festival returns to Arrow Street Arts March 5th through 8th with performances by Miguel Zenon Quartet, Isaiah Collier, Chris Davis Trio, and Sullivan Fortner Trio. VivoPerformingArts.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy streaming youtube.com/GBH News. On Monday, representatives from the Franklin Park Defenders, that's a group opposing Mayor Wu's White Stadium plans for a professional soccer team and expanding, obviously, facilities for high school kids. They'll join us Tuesday. We finally return to the library. Mayor Wu will join us for an hour. On Tuesday, on March 25th, the Attorney General Campbell will join us for an hour. And on March 27th, it's Ask the Governor, when Maura Healey will join us for an hour. Joined now on Zoom by Anand Giridharadas, political journalist, author of The Persuaders and Winners Take All. You can find his newsletter, which is spectacular, The.ink, at The.ink, and see him on MSNBC. Anand, it's great to see you again. Welcome.
Great to see you both.
Yeah, so happy to see you. You wrote a great piece, one of the best I've read, back in November for the Times about the so-called Epstein class. And now you're doing I hate the term deep dive, but it appears you're doing a deep dive on the Epstein class. So tell us what you're doing.
As you may remember when we chatted then, I sort of started reading those emails when it was, I think of several thousand emails on a whim, and was reading a lot of the press at the time and was feeling like something big was being missed, that we were sort of writing about one scandal at a time or one prince or one bank, all of which was very important, but that there was a kind of pattern, not of kind of a Me Too movement style thing of like getting individual people naming names, but there was an operating system that was being revealed that, in many ways the press is not set up to do, because it's a kind of day story machine. And I thought, having an independent platform like The.ink, that's maybe something I could do. I can't do daily revelations the way the New York Times can. I can't dig the way they can. But we started this series called The Epstein Class in The.ink, where we're going to kind of do one big essay a week for the next several weeks, looking at not what did this guy do or what did that guy do, but what is the operating system of power revealed by these files, right? What are some of the behaviors? And I want to say this delicately, but I think it's very important. And a lot of the survivors have said this very clearly, which is that there's a certain view you could take that there's extreme depraved acts of pedophilia at the heart of the story, and that those, in a sense, should be kind of ring-fenced and understood as their own thing, their own separate thing, right? Their own circle of hell. And I think that's true. But I think it would be a mistake to ignore connections that can be made between the extreme acts at the core and other things. The tolerances in this wider network around Jeffrey Epstein for his behavior, even by people who would never do the kinds of things he did. There were many people in that network who would never do those things, but didn't have a problem with someone who would. The universities that have the most woke, progressive policies around sexual harassment and this and that, but had no problem taking money, selling themselves, including in your fine city, as reputation laundering services to a convicted pedophile like Jeffrey Epstein. So we're trying to dig in to the larger culture. And I think for folks listening to this, if you are lucky enough not to have ever been caught up in extreme depraved sexual abuse of the kind detailed here, I think you will nonetheless recognize in the behaviors and values and attitudes of this class, you will recognize many of the indifferences that have shaped your life in other realms, in the economy, in your workplace, and the kind of banks you have to deal with. These were guys, if you look at the emails, these were guys who 1 second, at 11:01 a.m., were sending a message about how to regulate mortgages, and 11:03 a.m. sending a message about the kind of girls they would want in a massage room. So for them, the glide between these things was seamless. And I think it's important to make those connections for people. We're keeping the series free and open to the public. So if people go to the.ink, all you have to do is sign up. And it's open to the public. And actually, we're going to go in and we'll go in later today and give away a bunch of free comp subscriptions to some of the folks who sign up today.
Well, so far it's been fabulous. Reading what you've written in your colleagues, the first thing I thought of, is that line from Quentin Tarantino during the Weinstein situation. He said, "I knew enough to have done more." Of course, long after the fact, when he couldn't do anything else. I want to expand on what you just said, Anand. You talk about the powerful elite, and I think the language you used was, it was not the first time that they'd looked away. And I think it's really important, and I know you know it because you wrote it, to not see this as an isolated abomination, but put in a larger context of looking away. Could you play with that for a second?
Yeah, looking away is an important term in psychology. And when you think about, whether you're in the scale of a family, I think sometimes one thinks about acts of looking away. One thinks about, things that are overlooked in families in order to keep the peace, or in the name of this is our culture or whatever. I mean, a lot of our families have examples of that. But you think on the level of nations historically, right? You think about all the research that came out after the Holocaust, when people were trying to figure out who knew what in Germany, who understood what at the time, and the initial kind of instincts around, well, it was a small number of, powerful people giving orders, and then everybody else was too scared. Well, that turned out to not be true. There was a lot of research, Hitler's Willing Executioners and other books, that actually showed how absolutely widespread the contagion of hatred became, and that people who yesterday were friends and neighbors of that Jewish family down the road were suddenly able to, if they didn't commit acts themselves, look away at barbarism that they had to be aware of. And so looking away is, I don't want to say moral force, it's in a way the ultimate immoral force, because it's always very small numbers of people who are truly evil and monstrous in the way that Jeffrey Epstein was. Fortunately, there are not that many people like that in the world. What there are potential bystanders or potential upstanders. What there are people who could complain or could not. What there are, you've seen this, we've all been in rooms where there's a kind of behavior that's borderline. Nothing like this, just borderline behavior. And we've all been in rooms and watched the organism of a room decide without words, right? Let's say it's like a thing a guy says about women in a room just of guys, right? Jim, I'm sure you and I have been in rooms where we watch the organism of those 8 or 10 or 12 guys make a nonverbal decision about, are we going to be like, yo, Joe, that's not cool? Or are we going to be like, or are we going to say nothing? Right? We've all been in those. So this was a case where you had hundreds, thousands of men in this Epstein class. We're talking about people affiliated with Harvard, MIT, local interest, J.P. Morgan Chase, people coming out of Republican and Democratic administrations in the White House, Goldman Sachs, on and on and on. Google, it's Gates Foundation, obviously the British royal family, various entities involving Dubai. It's kind of interesting to think about the number of people who didn't have a problem with this. And actually, in our first installment in this series, I wrote about courage. And I think one of the effects of this particular elite, right? Every elite in every era has its own flavor. This elite in this era, captured in these Epstein files, is a highly global, highly networked kind of Aspen, Davos, and it's an elite that is defined by geographic fluidity, moves all around the world, vocational fluidity, right? One day you're at Goldman Sachs, next day you're in the White House doing a job, next thing you're in a charitable foundation. These used to be thought of as more separate realms. In the neoliberal age, they're it's all the same party. And I think these folks in these networks, my understanding of it through reporting and experience, is that these people live, even though they're very privileged, they live in a terror of falling out of the network. And so even people who would never, ever hurt someone the way Epstein did themselves, even people who probably wouldn't have left their daughter alone in a city with him, let alone a room, I think we're so afraid of falling out of the network because things lead to things. You never know when your next opportunity is going to come from. You never know which lane you're going to want to jump in. And this kind of elite network anxiety that I wrote about in our first chapter, I think explains a lot of this looking away.
Well, you talk about going to a dinner party with your wife, where somebody that wound up with a connection to Epstein. You had an experience with this yourself. Tell us about that.
It wasn't a dinner party. It was just a dinner, me and my wife and this one other person, this friend of ours. It was many, many years ago in New York. We had just moved to New York from Boston. And we didn't know New York well. And obviously it was a kind of big, overwhelming town, socially and otherwise. So we were at dinner with this relatively new friend of ours. And we had a lovely dinner because this friend confessed, she confessed vulnerability. She had a startup. Startup wasn't going well. It wasn't growing. She was having problems with investors. She was scared. She was nervous. What should she do? Was her life coming to a halt? We gave her advice. It's like a normal friend thing. This is I don't know. This is what I do every day. And then a couple days later, we got an email from her that read as if written by a lawyer. And it was like, I may have given you the impression that growth was stalling at my startup. However, growth is strong. We had our largest week of new customer acquisition last week. I just saw a graph. It was a beautiful, shapely curve thing. All is well. All is well. And my wife and I probably cite that email like once a month to each other. It was, even though it was probably more than a decade ago, it was such a wake-up call about the city we'd moved to and a certain kind of network elite in this city where, although this woman, I think, saw us as friends the way we saw her as friends, she also saw us as nodes in a network.
Yeah.
And she realized that being vulnerable with people who were your friends could ultimately cost you in the network, because maybe then we wouldn't think about introducing her to some investor we met if we went to some place, or maybe. And it was like when you realize someone you are nominally close to, anyway, this person ended up in the Epstein files, and her husband ended up in the Epstein files. Not a particularly deep involvement, kinds of wrongdoing, but the kind of looking away potentially. And I always just thought of that because that was a little bit of my glimpse into that world. That this is someone who had a real sensitivity about human rights and the dignity of people, but I think the desire to maintain network connections at any price enables a whole lot.
Yeah, by the way, you were listening to Anand Giridharadas on BPR, on GBH, and NEPM. By the way, I have credited Marjorie, I have to tell the truth, with coining the phrase the Epstein class.
I don't think I did it.
A little more accurate.
I didn't either. Congressman Ro Khanna.
Yeah,
well,
Ro Khanna.
I want to talk about him for a second, and maybe you can explain something to me I don't understand. I wasn't aware when the Epstein Transparency, whatever the hell it's called, Act passed virtually unanimously. I think one no vote, and then Trump signed it. That it specifically says there can't be redactions based on embarrassment, political sensitivity, or damage to the reputation of officials. So when people like Khanna, a Democrat, Massey, a Republican, who led this charge, come out of these private settings where they actually got to read some of the redacted stuff, and they came out, and I think they said they saw 6 names of men who were, and I'm putting words in their mouths, likely abusers. Why aren't we hearing the names of those men, since they could either do it on the Senate floor, in which they have total immunity, or cite the Epstein Transparency Act, which would protect them? The fact that we are this far into this and we have gotten no names other than Andrew.
I will say I share that frustration, and at the same time, I will say, having spent a lot of times in these emails and files, I will say that we are not like prosecutors and investigators, right? This needs to be properly done by these agencies, because having read a lot of these files, it's pretty suggestive and vague, and like people generally don't send emails, thanking someone for providing the underage minor last night, right? So there are not emails like that. Generally speaking, there may be some exceptions that get close, but generally speaking, people, particularly people of this level of resources and sophistication, don't send emails implicating themselves in crimes. So to the extent that there were many crimes committed here, which it seems quite clear there are from the testimonies of other people, the emails and the files are investigative leads to figure out, you were here at this point, you knew this person, you were in this place, you went to this place. But only proper investigators have the resources to put that together with flight logs and credit card statements and all the stuff that you and I don't have. So I think there's this strange thing happening right now where, because we have all been so underserved on this story, not just by Trump's Justice Department, but by every Justice Department since this was happening.
Very important.
And by a whole bunch of local law enforcement also all around the country, presumably, or at least in New York and Florida and the islands. We are all sifting through the files ourselves, basically applying pressure, but ultimately we can't indict people, right? And so it's going to fall on a highly compromised Trump Justice Department that is essentially being run as his personal law firm. So that's not gonna bear fruit, although it should. So I would hope, look, New York City. I would hope New York City looks at this case again. I would hope a lot of jurisdictions look at these cases. It has been an age of impunity in so many ways, but nothing captures this impunity so well as this story of what was done to children and tolerated by so many powerful bystanders.
We learned a lot, and we're so glad you're doing what you're doing, and so good to see you again.
We didn't get to Man in the
Anand.
Mirror about the subway situation, but we'll talk about that
I know.
next.
Well, I'll come back and talk about it, but I do have a bound.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to.
And it sounds like it's going to be a great
Let's do that
story.
soon. I really want to know about that.
When's it coming
too.
out? When's it
It
coming
comes out September 29th.
Okay,
Great.
we'll definitely talk to you before then about
We'll
that.
see you
Thank you
soon.
so
Be well.
much.
All right, thank you. It's so good to see you both.
We've been talking to Anand Giridharadas, political journalist, author of The Persuaders, The Winners Take All. You can find his newsletter, The.ink, The.ink, and see him on MSNBC. We've got some great music coming up next. You're listening to GBH on NEPM, and this is BPR.
I'm Jared Bowen. After pulling his Lincoln Symphony from the Kennedy Center, composer Philip Glass will premiere the work this summer with the BSO at Tanglewood. And RFK Jr. has brewed a fight, dunking on Dunkin for sweetening America's sugary iced coffee habit. And for the final send-off, a $500 urn with built-in speakers promises an eternal playlist, because even the afterlife needs a DJ. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Riverstone International US LLC, located in Beverly, Massachusetts. A Riverstone International company acquiring legacy insurance globally since 2010. Learn more at rsml.co.uk. And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping families stay active and outdoors this spring. Offering a wide range of tennis and pickleball products and services. With locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Time for another edition of Live Music Friday in Studio 3 in Brighton, because we're not back to the library till next week. We're joined now by Jamie Baum, a flutist and a composer, and by Steve Ellman, jazz connoisseur and former jazz radio host at WBUR. They go back more than 40 years, and they join us at a Jamie show at Scullers tomorrow, March 7th. For tickets, go to scullersjazz.com. Before we talk to them first, Jamie's going to play a song I have a feeling everybody will recognize. Jamie, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Okay, ready?
Let's hope.
1, 2, 3.
Introduce your accompanist for us.
I'm sorry?
Introduce your accompanist.
Oh, this is Julian Shore.
Hey, Julian, that was great. Welcome.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And tell us what's going on at Scullers this weekend.
Oh, I'm so excited. I haven't been there in 10 years since Fred Taylor was there. You probably all remember Fred.
Oh, indeed we do.
And I used to play there a lot, and then just got busy and haven't been up here because I live in New York City, and so really excited and so grateful to Steve for sort of initiating the idea and bringing up the rest of my band. They're driving up today, and I have a wonderful sax player, Jaleel Shaw, who's played with Roy Haynes, and he's been touring a lot with Dave Holland, and just incredible. And then, of course, Julian, and I have Jeff Hirschfield on drums and Sam Monet on bass. So it's going to be really exciting.
And you have known each other for 40 years?
40 oh, God.
So tell us, she's a big deal in the jazz world on the flute.
I mean, it's been an incredible experience for me to watch Jamie's career grow, because I knew her when I was on the air at WBUR, and she was a student at the New England Conservatory, and she came in and said, "I'd like to play on your show." I said, great. I never said no. And so she came in with a band, and I was very, very impressed, not just by the technique, because you heard how beautiful her sound is, but also by the commitment. I mean, over the course of her life, she has shown incredible commitment to herself and to her musical ideals, and I kept watching and listening to her records and saying, she is doing great stuff. And so when the time came earlier, it was last year now, I said to the folks at Scullers, I said, Jamie Baum hasn't played here in a long time. What can I do to make this happen? And they said, well, and so a little bit of cash, a little bit of jawboning. I'm very serious. I mean, it's a dirty little secret in jazz that you can be an impresario for very little money. And what happened was, in order to make this happen, I footed the bill for the promotion. But that wasn't a lot of money, and it was a good thing for me to do, and I get a chance to see Jamie live, so it's
we're glad you did. And by the way, we don't have time for this today, but the way I know Steve is he co-authored a brilliant book about the founder of talk radio, Jerry Williams, with whom Marjorie and I had many should I say encounters? We had many, so we had a big fight in the studio yesterday when we were teasing you coming here. Flautist, flutist, flute player. What is it?
Okay. Well, as you might understand, I've been asked that many times.
I had a feeling you might, so I figured you'd be ready for it.
So I had to look it up, because I needed to know. And it's really flutist is the most correct, but it's not like flautist is wrong. It's kind of like saying tomato or tomato. But flutist is actually the correct
Good. That's
way.
where we ultimately
So now
settled.
you know.
Can we talk about one other part of your life that we're big believers in what used to be called, well, it's still called, but doesn't exist anymore, soft power in foreign diplomacy. And one of the hats you've worn is the State Department Jazz Ambassador, following in the heels, by the way. I think I'm right, because I read a book by Larry Tye about these guys, Armstrong, Gillespie, Ellington. What'd you do in that job? What was the whole point of that assignment?
Well, as you said, it was a big thing in the 50s and 60s, and then it sort of disappeared. And I think, in the 90s, with the Kennedy Center, with Dr. Billy Taylor, they reinstated it, and they wanted to bring jazz musicians, and it started out with themes and just trios. But it was really wonderful. It really fit me because I just am so interested in other cultures, and music there. So basically, it was a similar concept as the original one, that just trying to send us to places that, would be good to, offer them our American export of jazz and to
create bonds with these other cultures that we don't value anymore, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I think it's great.
And the wonderful thing about those programs is that we would be in each place for a while, and we would do collaborative concerts with the local musicians, and we'd teach. So there was a lot of outreach, which was very important.
We're talking to flutist Jamie Baum and jazz expert Steve Ellman. So since you are a jazz expert, I am not, but I don't usually associate the flute with jazz. So talk about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the flute is always in the miscellaneous instrument category in the downbeat poll. I'm sorry.
Anymore.
I'm sorry to say that for many, many years there were not a lot of jazz flutists, and if you could count them on one hand. Right. But what has happened over time is that, as with every form, the music is like an amoeba. It reaches out and absorbs what's around it. And with so many young musicians going to conservatory schools and popular and classical schools, the opportunity to play jazz for a professional flutist, for an oboist, for a French horn player, all these things happened, and the music just absorbed them. So you're right.
Well, I told this to Jim beforehand. I heard Peter and the Wolf when I was a little girl. Dum, 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 all the flute, right? And I just thought the flute was the greatest thing ever. Then I got to school where they had lessons, but they didn't have the flute. It wasn't a choice. No, I ended up with a clarinet. But in any case, I think the flute is overlooked in classical music too. When you think of orchestras and symphonies, I mean, there are a few. I don't know.
Some
you
brilliant players at the BSO.
Yeah, there are.
Heard.
But you don't hear that many. I mean, it's the piano, or it's the cello, or it's something. There's not that many concertos or symphonies centered around the flute either.
Well, just tying back into the jazz ambassador thing, when I applied, this was 1999, and, jazz was still not as expansive in terms of odd instruments as it was. But one of the reasons why I was lucky to get chosen, because it was very competitive, was because flute is found in every culture.
Yeah.
So even though, it might not be as big, people can relate to it everywhere. It was like one of the first instruments, I think, archaeologically, they found the flute maybe either after or before, like, percussion,
Well,
Let me just say, if I can, you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM.
I wondered, too, that your flute looks bigger to me than the average run-of-the-mill flute.
Well, actually, I have two flutes, and I play the regular flute as well, which you'll see tomorrow night. But the particular pieces I chose, I actually do on this flute, and this is called an alto flute.
Okay, an alto flute.
And people confuse it with bass flute because bass flute always had a curved head, and this is a little bit unusual, but it makes it easier to play.
Okay.
But it has a really beautiful, rich sound.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Really
The flute is such a beautiful instrument. Like, as when you hear it, especially when you hear it by itself, it's just like, whew.
Yeah, when it's played well.
When it's played well, that's right.
I think that goes for pretty much every instrument. Would you not agree, Steve?
Right.
What you're playing one of your own compositions next? What is it?
It's called Song Without Words.
You gonna play it now?
Yes.
Excellent. We're looking forward to it.
Okay.
Jamie Baum tomorrow night at Scullers. Go to scullersjazz.com to get tickets, information, all that sort of thing.
Take this off. Sorry.
Just taking your headset off. Narrating. If you're not watching on YouTube, headset is off, ready to play. Song Without Words. Song without words. That was great, Jamie.
Flutist and composer Jamie Baum, who's joined by a jazz connoisseur, Steve Ellman. Thank you both so much for coming in. We're going to say goodbye to those of you listening at NPM. We're going to keep going here in Boston, followed by Sue O'Connell. But I wanted to say once again, there's going to be a concert. I guess you call it a concert, right? At Scullers tomorrow, Saturday, March 7th, where you can hear Jamie Baum in person. If you want to get tickets, go to SchollersJazz.com. That's SchollersJazz.com. Saturday at Scullers, March 7th. That, of course, is tomorrow. SchollersJazz.com. Thank you so much again for coming in. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Sue O'Connell. Quick break. We'll speak with her about, the party got a little bit out of control in downtown. Went on till 2:30 in the morning with a lot of hookahs underneath tables, a little marijuana smoke in the air.
That's not all.
And a little women in bikinis.
Maybe
and,
not.
Some of the Patriots were there as well. That's next on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. Thanks for listening on NEPM.
The news and reporting you hear on GBH is made possible by the listeners who trust the GBH newsroom to deliver fact-based news and information every day. Support the journalism you trust. Pitch in online at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union. Their mortgages are built around their members with personalized guidance. Memberships open to the public. More at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA, NMLS number 39923. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. On Monday, we're going to talk with people from the Franklin Park Defenders. They're the ones who oppose Mayor Wu's efforts to build a professional soccer team operation there in a white stadium. They're going to be here in Studio 3. But on Tuesday, we'll finally be back at the Boston Public Library. Mayor Wu will join us on Tuesday, the 25th for the Attorney General, 27th for the Governor. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. Sue O'Connell is our she's not just our media maven, she's everybody's media maven, NBC 10 News influencer, political analyst, and of course, most importantly these days, Thunder Truck passenger. Welcome back, Sue. It's great to see you. She's on Zoom, by the way. Sue, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I was hoping to get in the Thunder Truck last night, but they decided not to put me out. So
yeah, it was kind of a mini storm last night, I think, wasn't it? I don't think it was. I don't think it was a big one. Anyway, at least around here, it wasn't a big one. So the politics of the war. You have a little. You're going to tell us what's going to happen next, Sue. You're the Pentagon expert here. What's your take?
Well, I'll tell you that I realized this when Russia invaded Ukraine. It's not so much that I'm an expert on things, but like the two of you, I'm actually was alive at that point and paying attention, and I have a good memory, so I can remember these things. I remember I was the only person in the news meeting who, at that particular time, remembered what the USSR was.
Oh, gosh.
So I just want to be clear.
Oh,
Is that
I'm
true?
not an expert. I just have a good memory.
Oh,
I just have a number of serious concerns. Obviously, we all do, but there's no plan here, which is what is the most disturbing part. You can argue, as I did in a piece that I did for NBC Digital, that there are a number of legitimate reasons and arguments that you could possibly make about going to war with Iran. You can't make the argument that all of them are legitimate at the same time, because you can't mount any kind of campaign if you're trying to serve different purposes. And as we have seen President Trump and we have seen Secretary of War Hegseth, I think Hegseth, did I say Hegseth?
I like it better than
I like
way,
it.
actually. Good.
I like that.
I do too.
I was getting ahead of myself because I was going to say that we should have known when they called it the Department of War, what the plans were for the entire nation. But there's no plan here, and they keep contradicting themselves. Marco Rubio got messed up between saying one thing on one day and another thing. And this is a recipe for disaster if you don't have a plan and to execute a particular goal. And it's just incredibly worrisome.
I want to run something by you. To Chuck Todd yesterday, and Chuck Todd agreed that this would be Trump's desire, but he didn't think he could pull this off. I was hopeful that for reasons that shouldn't be as relevant to decision-making in war once it's declared as they would be, that with gas prices going up hugely in a week, like I think it was Drudge Report this morning said 11%. Stock market, I don't know what it's doing today. When it opened, it was down 400 or 500 points. That Trump is going to try to figure out to get out as quickly as possible. He demands unconditional surrender, he said yesterday or this morning. He'll say there has been unconditional surrender, and when there hasn't been, he'll blame it on somebody else. He'll blame it on Joe Biden or some such thing. Maybe that's optimistic about a president who only cares about his poll numbers. But Chuck resisted that and said it's still going to be dangerous to fly in that region. They're not going to let that happen. And he went down a litany. Where are you on how this ends and when it ends?
I agree. I agree with Chuck. I mean, I think one of the indicators, and I've been battling this out on X. I am not a military expert, but again, have lived a long time. And this is the first time that we have been involved directly or indirectly with a conflict in the Middle East where we didn't secure the Strait of Hormuz. Right? It's still unsecure. The Iranians say they're in control of it. There's no tankers moving through it. So how do you enter a conflict in the Middle East without a plan for securing an important strait? You know, the argument is, all that oil goes to China. But guess what they build in China? Stuff they send to us, right? So there's this whole concern about a lack of planning. And even if Trump said tomorrow, you know what, we're out, what happens in the region now? You know, where Iran has bombed and is retaliating against our allies. Dubai, who was really trying to be the Western vacation spot of the world, is now evacuating people. I mean, we broke it, in the words of
Since when
Powell.
does he care about
collateral?
But he doesn't care about collateral damage. He cares. He can assert, and I mean this sincerely, he can assert any untruth that he chooses to assert. These things are not, and I'm serious, he will figure out a way to blame it on Biden or something else, but he is not going to allow himself to be in a position where the most important indicator, because that's where he lives, on the stock market, is down dramatically, and where gas prices, where along with eggs, are the easiest things for average people to understand cost of living, to be going up.
But they're not going to recover, is my point. I mean, we're going to look, like, even if tomorrow he said, I'm out of there, there's damage done in the Middle East, which is going to impact gas and oil prices. It's going to impact manufacturing. It's going to impact a whole bunch of things that everyday Americans are going to be involved with. And he's not going to be able to shrug this off, especially when he's got his base very upset about the Epstein files still. That is still happening. And now this, what if he just turns around and says, let's invade Cuba tomorrow? I think
he plans to. He said this morning there's going to be a government turnover there too.
The people who voted for him because they said he's not going to enter into any more wars. He gave us our word, and he's going to release the Epstein files. They're not, and my eggs are too expensive. They're not going to recover from this.
One last thing on this. I didn't even think of that till you mentioned Cuba. The thing Margie and I were debating furiously this morning, I won't tell you which side we're on. Can Rubio be the supreme leader in Iran and the president of Cuba both?
Oh, yeah.
He can do both.
Venezuela. He's
Venezuela,
already got 4
right.
real jobs, right?
Yeah.
So he's USAID, archivist, Secretary of State, something else.
National Security Advisor, yeah.
Right. So now he's in charge of Venezuela. He'll be in charge of Iran. And I think
Cuba.
he can be in charge of Cuba.
You're right. Talking to Sue O'Connell.
We forgot to mention that the president wants to name the new leader of Iran.
Why shouldn't
he should choose. But let's get back home to...
By the way, that's serious. For those who haven't been paying attention to the news, that is true.
It's true.
He wants to pick the new leader.
A place called Estella in Boston. I guess a few members of the Patriots went out partying after they won the AFC Championship, and things perhaps were a little too wild for the Boston police.
Well, as someone who for a very short period of time managed a nightclub for just 6 months.
I forgot about that. I know that. I forgot. Yeah.
Man Ray campus in Central Square in Cambridge, and whenever you have a celebrity come of some type, it really puts you in a box.
Yeah.
I remember once we had a visit from the ABCD, and they wanted to make sure we were checking IDs because we had a under 21 night that we did on Wednesdays. So we had this is 25 years ago, so the ID situation wasn't quite what it was. And it was early in the evening, and the doorman came to me and said, "Hey, there's a lady at the door who doesn't have an ID. I don't want to let her in." And she said, "Go get the manager." So I came to the door, and it was Sybil Shepherd.
Oh, my gosh.
And she was married to a Cambridge doctor at the time, I think, and she wanted to come in, and I let her in, right? So I violated an ABCD rule letting Sybil Shepherd in. So you can only imagine if you're the manager of Estella's and you've got a room full of New England Patriots who are partying and all sorts of shenanigans are going on, and the Boston police come in, and then you're on the hook. I mean, my biggest problem with, they got their license suspended for 3 days, and I'm certain that they will respond, but my biggest problem with this is that there were reports that there were $1 bills on the floor.
On the floor, yeah.
What, $1 bills?
Yeah, well,
why weren't they sharing more wealth with the people that perhaps were dancing that they were giving money to? A $1 bill is like a penny now.
The nude women or in the bikinis that were running out of the room as the cops arrived. Not to mention the 6 large hookahs, which appeared to be concealed underneath the tables. The $1 bills all over the floor. Liquor
should
mostly
have been $20 bills. There should have been $20 bills.
Marijuana, you could smell the marijuana. Of course, you're not allowed to smoke it.
Why'd you care so much? If Marty and I, and this is another thing we really were debating this morning. You're into this story. What is the part that fascinates you?
It's just a wild party. Who doesn't want to talk about a wild party involving the Patriots and strippers?
That's a good point.
And this is a Boston Herald story. That's why Marjorie loved
I was at the Boston Herald for a long time.
You were.
You can take the girl out of the tabloid. You can't take the tabloid out of the girl. That's why I like it, Jim.
Okay, so everybody
Jim's
cares.
above this kind of thing, Sue. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He's above this kind of thing.
Well, I would admit that far more people care about that story than what I'm going to bring up.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this congresswoman from Washington State by the name of Glusenkamp Perez? She's a new young Democrat, sort of a centrist Democrat. And about a month ago, she really upset all her fellow Democrats when this guy, Chuy Garcia, who is a Democrat, a congressman, has one of his staff people announce that she's running for his seat, and then he pulls out of the race after the deadline for filing. So essentially, he picked his successor because it's a heavily Democrat. And I admired the courage in having done that. Someone in her own party, all of her party members were angry. Yesterday, this is just so undemocratic and horrible. Steve Daines is now the outgoing Republican senator from Montana. I'm going to give you some numbers. Don't think I'm exaggerating this. 8 minutes before the filing deadline, 8 minutes before the filing deadline for that seat, to run for that seat, he announces he's not running for re-election. Oh, I take it back. 8 minutes before the Attorney General of Montana announced 2 minutes before the deadline, Daines, what a shock, says, I'm not running for re-election. And what happens? There is no time for a serious Democratic candidate or another Republican who wants to run to get involved in the race. And to her credit, virtually the only person calling this out is the same young congressperson, Glusenkamp Perez. I think it is an outrage. Yep. Are you upset about this, or you're more upset about the bar?
It's a little bit more confusing than the Patriots, the hookah,
it is
and
a little more
the
confusing.
strippers.
They fixed the elections.
here's the deal. Here's what should be happening, and I rant about this all the time. The political parties have too much power on every level of government, right? And this is an example of this. This was definitely blocked a Republican from getting in, but certainly guaranteed the seat for a Republican to win by excluding the ability for a Democrat to get in. So you might argue, well, why aren't the Democrats running anyway? Why aren't Republicans running anyway? Because the party system is so difficult. It probably would have been difficult for a Democrat to win, so they couldn't raise enough money to get in. And this is my continuing argument that we should have open primaries and or we should have ranked choice voting because that would encourage more people to run. They wouldn't need the backing of the parties in order to get on the ballot or necessarily to get through a primary, and it would make it so much more democratic. This entire nation is not built for political parties. Thomas Jefferson was hopeful that we wouldn't have political parties. He looked at it as a horizon of people running, not these silos. So I think that this is another example of why we need to diminish the power of political parties and try and get us to open primaries or ranked choice voting, because that's the only way to stop stuff like this from happening.
Isn't that what we have in Boston? This open in California statewide, these open primaries, top two finishers. What?
Yeah, the city council and the mayor in most municipals, most cities and towns or cities are technically open primary, and because you don't need to be a party to run, right? So most of the people who run in Boston are Democrats. So, but anyone can run. But in Maine and Alaska and some other states, they have open primaries, and I think it makes all the difference in the world. And it would stop shenanigans, my second time using that word today, from happening and people blocking out candidates from running.
Well, by the way, you left California off the list, and the reason California is so significant, let me tell this story briefly.
Oh, yeah.
This is incredible. This is an overwhelmingly Democratic state, and a poll taken yesterday, there's so many Democrats running that, and the two highest finishing people, regardless of party, make it into the final. As of 2 or 3 days ago, the two highest finishing candidates for governor in an overwhelmingly Democratic state are both Republicans, because so many Democrats are running for governor in the typical selfish fashion that they're splitting the vote so dramatically that it's very possible the only choice for Democrats in, the Democratic electorate in California will be two Republicans. It's pretty incredible.
I didn't even know it could work like that. I would think they would always separate it by parties, but obviously I'm wrong.
They call that a jungle primary in California. That's how they call it. I mean, it happens all the time that when there's a lot of people running, it really diminishes, which I think is the argument for ranked choice voting.
So can't somebody step in there that's the big wigs, a few big wigs in the Democratic Party?
The chair of the party has asked the so-called also-rans
and they
outside
won't do
the
it.
top three. Well, that's the moment. They may later, but it just speaks to another problem. And
so, Sue, this story really bothered me. There's been so much upbeat reaction to heated rivalry,
which Sue has not seen.
Which Sue has not seen. But, it's as so many people have pointed out, there's no tragic ending here. It's not like somebody gets outed, and their family throws them out. Not some terrible, like, Brokeback Mountain ending, which was really sad. It's an upbeat gay love story in hockey. But now apparently this is sparking bullying and harassment in Massachusetts high school hockey programs.
The good news is that on Saturday Night Live, we had both one of the stars of heated rivalry as the host. We had the men's hockey team and the women's Olympic hockey team that were all on making gay jokes with each other all together in a sign of unity. This happens all the time. We don't often cover it. Right. Yeah. So when there's a step forward, when there's a will and grace, when there's an Ellen, when there's same-sex marriage becomes legal, there's acceptance, and then there's always some pushback. And of course, if there's going to be pushback anywhere, it's going to be in high school locker rooms and in schools. So it's sad, and we would hope that we would be further along than this. But unfortunately, it's also hockey. I mean, it's one of the few sports where you're actually encouraged to fight and have fist fights on the ice.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not exactly,
that's true.
A gentleman's and a gentlewoman's sport, if you will. The other good news here is that you've got folks like the Lawyers for Civil Rights taking action immediately. You've got Andrea Joy Campbell, our Attorney General, reacting to it. And hopefully you have coaches in schools that are also talking about it. But I will tell you one thing. I think if any hockey player is insulted by being called one of the main players, they'll just have a fist fight about it on the ice, and then they'll figure it out in some sense. But the bullying is a real thing. It always happens, and I am at least comforted to see that there's been an immediate reaction on the levels of the people who are in charge of kind of managing it.
Can you, by the way, for those who didn't hear the day we had our first conversation with you about heated rivalry, could you try to explain, and I mean try to explain again, why you've not watched this show?
Because I'm surrounded by gay people all the time, and I don't need to watch. I never watched Will and Grace. I didn't watch Ellen. I'm all set. I like to be with the straights.
Okay, so this is another...
It's exotic. It's exotic for me.
Okay. We're talking to Sue O'Connell.
This is another one of those real estate tragic stories, where if we'd all had brains 30 years ago, we could have been in great shape. Because South Boston, which, as we all know from watching the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie from years ago, was working class neighborhood, right? Triple deckers,
yep.
Everybody in there forever. Tough neighborhood with Whitey Bulger there and everything else. Now it's kind of become the Irish Riviera of Boston with huge prices there.
So, Marjorie, I know you remember this. It's got some of the highest earning households in Massachusetts. You remember in the 80s and 90s when the neighborhood of South Boston was very strict about architecture and housing. They didn't want any roof decks. They didn't want any certain types of doors. And the idea in the 80s and 90s that we reacted to was that they were trying to keep the yuppies out, right? So South Boston has been trying for its entire existence to keep the yuppies out. I have a dear friend who moved there in the 90s and had a dispute over a parking space during a snowstorm, and the woman came out, and the worst thing she could call her was a liberal. Get out, you liberal. And I have friends who own, condominiums that used to be 3 decas, and the people in the neighborhood are always reminding them that, Sophie lived there in the 3rd floor in the 3-decker. I think that part of this is good for the neighborhood in that these seem to be some families that are living there. So it's not just single people or young couples who move to the Boston and then move out. So I'm hopeful this will actually translate into people staying in South Boston and living there. The other part too, which the Globe article doesn't mention, is the waterfront that has changed.
It's gorgeous. Right? You can swim there.
Right. So you've got you've got beachfront property, and you also have you've got one brand new neighborhood away with 5-star restaurants and all sorts of events happening. So it's not just this peninsula or island that was very tribal and stuck out in the water. It's now become a very multicultural and very multi-economic neighborhood. But I hope that people are going to stay and raise families.
Well, wait. When you say 5-star restaurants, I would just say the most recent time I was in South Boston.
Oh, here we go.
Which was 2 days ago.
Mr. Restaurateur.
I bought a hot dog for $1.80 at Sullivan's.
Oh, were you at Sullivan's?
And
Sullivan's just opened.
The cheapest lobster roll I've bought in Boston probably in years.
I can't believe you went to Sullivan's.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful site.
It is a beautiful
site. It opened for the season.
Yeah.
They have that gazebo you can walk out to now, and you see the people on, the kite surfing in the summertime.
And you watch the slow motion planes going into Logan.
You can almost, on the right, depending on which direction it is, you can almost see the people through the windows. It's a great place to go with kids to watch the planes come over, and they got that huge playground there. Place to walk. I mean, I love South Boston. It's much better than it was.
Can I say one thing though that troubled me? I don't mean this critically, because it was mostly it was not intended to be an in-depth, heavily reported story. One of the reasons for the gentrification, which was not mentioned, which is really relevant to what's going to happen here in November, is the elimination of rent control. I mean, I lived when I moved into my house in Inman Square in Cambridge. It was right around the time of the rent control repeal ballot question, where, as we've said 1,000 times, the 3 communities which had rent control voted to keep it. And the 348 communities whose business it was not voted to get rid of it. And the neighborhood totally changed, and and not unlike the neighborhood is changing in South Boston. So the reason I mention that is because the issues around this rent control ballot question are not purely, in the merits in controlling rents, but what the absence of some reasonable rent ceilings do to communities.
But they have...
And also just building affordable housing, which South Boston has not necessarily been keeping up on, like other neighborhoods have been trying to. So there's less affordable housing being added to the neighborhood. And, you got that waterfront property now in the old 3 decas.
Yeah, you got 2 housing projects with water views that are on the water. I think that may be unique in America. You can see you're right there on the beach.
Marjorie, I don't know if you know this, but when we started working on the radio 27 years ago, Marjorie would say, this is true. This is not intended to be a joke. Well, it is a joke, but it was true. Marjorie said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm buying a triple-decker in Chelsea. I'm going to buy it as an investment property. And then then the prices are going to go up.
Never kind of
I'm going to make a killing, secure my retirement. How did that go?
Didn't work out, Sue. Never bought the triple-decker in Chelsea, or never bought some little teeny tiny apartment in triple-decker in South Boston either. So, oh well. Oh well, too late now.
It's always Fitchburg or wherever it is.
How's your Cape Cod property coming, Jim?
It's well. I'm doing some research, and I'll get back to you as soon as we make a decision. Thank you, Sue. Sue, we miss you in person, but it's great to see you on Zoom.
See you too. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue O'Connell is our media maven, NBC 10 Boston news influencer, political analyst, got a great Instagram page, and of course, most important, she is the Thunder Truck passenger. Thanks, Sue O'Connell. Coming up after this quick break, RFK Jr. says he's coming for Dunkin in the creepiest way possible. We'll open the lines to get your thoughts on the Health and Human Secretary coming for one of Boston's most popular exports, a large regular. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan. Listen to BPR 89.7, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick, on the Curiosity Desk. It's easy to forget when we've still got sleet and slush to worry about, but we are turning the corner into spring. Birds are starting to sing, snow is melting, things are beginning to look up. And so are we, with help from an astrophysicist. It's the March edition of Stargazer's Guide. That's the Curiosity Desk today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com. And H&H, the Handel and Haydn Society. Spring blossoms with Handel's water music and the first Brandenburg Concerto, led by Artistic Director Jonathan Cohen, April 10th and 12th at Symphony Hall. Tickets at handelandhaydn.org.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH, Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. On Monday, we have representatives from the Franklin Park Defenders. Those are the people who are opposing Mayor Wu's plan for White Stadium. Mayor Wu joins us the next day. We're finally back at the library. When I say finally, by the way, I'm make it sound like we're upset with somebody. Our coworkers have apparently done fabulous things to upgrade the systems at the library.
Fantastic.
Which we're really, really excited about.
I got the word.
But we are back on Tuesday. Mayor Wu will join us Tuesday at the library from 12 to 1. As if RFK Jr. doesn't have anything better to do, like fight the resurgence of measles in our country, he's using his time to poke the bear instead, and at least upsets Marjorie. Here he is at a MAHA, Make America Healthy Again rally in Texas.
Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks show us the safety data that show that it's okay for a teenage girl to drink an iced coffee with 115 grams of sugar in it.
Now, ignoring the creepiness, which is very hard, of his so-called paternalistic care for teenage girls, what would you do if RFK actually did come? I shouldn't even call him RFK. If Kennedy actually did come for your Dunkin's order, what are you doing over there? What are you doing?
Getting my chair.
Okay, thank you. A large regular, probably safe, a coffee with cream, sugar, and flavor pumps, or a frappuccino, obviously at Starbucks. decidedly not healthy. Now, I know some of you are saying, like Marjorie, if Massachusetts wants to drown in sugary drinks like the Great Molasses Flood of 1919, that's our constitutional right. I would say, you ready for this, Marjorie? You sitting down?
Yep.
I am totally with Kennedy on this issue. Our number is 877-301. 89.
My God!
Now,
look at what we have here.
What is it?
This is some kind of Dunkin' Donuts.
What is that thing?
It's a triple mocha frozen coffee.
Triple mocha frozen coffee, which has a mere 6,000 calories of sugar.
We'll hand this over to
okay,
Jim.
let me taste it in a second. And so that's our question.
600 calories. Thank you, Ronan. 600 calories.
By the way, that is 600 calories
220
in
grams
a sip.
of fat.
There's no way.
88 grams of sugar. He wants to take those away.
Well, some of the drinks that he cited have roughly 7 times as much as you should have in sugar, or 6 times as much in sugar grams in a particular day, much less in an individual drink. So are you upset that Kennedy is coming for Dunkin' and Starbucks sugariest drinks, or do you think it's time that we do something about these? By the way, do you remember when Deval Patrick proposed a tax on sugary drinks like they have in a few states, and I think they have in Mexico?
Everybody hated it.
Well, not everyone hated it.
They wanted to be left
Marjorie.
alone. You loved it.
I loved it.
Jim wants to control everybody's life.
You know what the primary reason why we have the fattest nation? We used to have the fattest nation in the world. Now we're like the 3rd fattest nation.
We don't. Everybody's taking the drugs
Not
now.
everybody, like 10% are. We still are very overweight. It's roughly half the country is obese in this country. You know why they're obese, Marjorie? Sugary drinks.
Okay.
For once, Kennedy hit on something. Now, having said that, obviously there are loopholes in the law and his proposals and that sort of thing. But let me just say this. Here's the negative impact of somebody who knows nothing about nothing. Kennedy speaking out. Remember when he and Trump did that Tylenol thing? And talked about that other...
They've done terrible things.
Well, actually, and then he talked about leucovorin. You should be using that. It's some sort of folic acid thing. This is about pregnant women. Do you know that the use of a story that came out in some British medical journal yesterday? The use of Tylenol is going down precipitously. The use of leucovorin
is going up.
People
70. Listen to him.
So the point is,
I don't
people
know why
will
people listen to
people
him.
should listen to him because sweet drinks like this that are drowning in sugar are bad for you.
Here's what I want to know. Yeah,
I'm taking a sip of this now.
Why haven't we seen RFK's legs?
That's pretty good.
We haven't seen his legs in years.
Can we talk
Did you
about
notice how he's a big, obviously he's doing something himself, maybe a little steroids, maybe a little testosterone. Something's going on there. He isn't outlawing those, but he always wears his jeans. Even
the
when
Kid
he's
Rock
working out.
video, yeah.
He got into a cold bath. And I believe he just gotten out of a sauna. And when he goes to the gym, he's got his jeans on. And I looked online for pictures of his legs. I haven't seen any for years.
Okay, so we have 2 questions, apparently.
What do you think the story is?
Why are we not seeing Kennedy's legs, assuming you want to, and Marjorie apparently does? But primarily, we want to know about how you feel about Kennedy. He is the chief health officer in the United States of America, which is unbelievable, taking on the worst of Dunkin', and you're not supposed to call it Dunkin' Donuts anymore. Dunkin'.
You're not supposed to call it Dunkin' Donuts anymore?
No, it's called Dunkin'. It's not Dunkin' Donuts anymore.
It's
Dunkin'. The worst of Dunkin' and Starbucks. The number is 877-301-8970. And by the way, as a favor to Marjorie, just to send her off for the weekend, if you comment on the sugary drink thing, please give your 2 cents, your explanation as to why he never takes his jeans off.
Yeah, why does he never take his jeans off?
I don't know, Marjorie.
It's very, very weird. There is a lot of sugar in a lot of these things, so I got to say, the triple mocha frozen coffee large, 159 grams of added sugar. That's quite a bit.
I think he's supposed to have 15 a day or something like that.
10.
Pam from Concord is already embarrassed. She texts and says, it's okay to look at food, but how about keeping guns away from children? That's a wonderful point. That's a very good point.
RFK Jr., before, even after the brainworm, he did great work as a lawyer, environmental lawyer.
Stuff, yeah.
So he was involved in this $289 million verdict involving the toxic chemicals in Roundup, that glyphosate, whatever the heck it is. And he was one of the lawyers.
Yeah.
And that causes people cancer. They talk landscapers getting cancer. Trump has just said that's fine. We want more. We're not going to enforce that because Roundup, we need Roundup out there. We need to spray all these cancer-causing agents on the food of Americans so we can eat that.
So what are you actually saying that Trump is doing something that's not good for the American people?
Well, I would say that RFK Jr. who is wrong about vaccines, was right about the Roundup, but now has changed his mind. I think he's got bigger fish to fry than the sugar in Dunkin' Donuts, frankly. I think he should.
By the way, he's against fried fish, too. I should have said that. Now, let me be clear.
What has he said about French fries at
I don't
McDonald's?
know. Oh, you're supposed to use that kind of beef tallow.
Beef tallow.
Now, can I tell you something?
And
What
you're
are the
supposed to eat
rules? Let me
massive
explain
amounts of
something
meat.
about talk radio, which Marjorie obviously never went to that course. Here's the thing about talk radio. When you want people to call a show, you focus laser-like on the topic at hand. And then, once they're engaged, you bring up things like why he never takes his jeans off, why the thing about whatever it is, French fries. But you can't control yourself.
301 8970
Now, without
877
pausing, what are we talking about? Do you know what the primary topic is?
We're talking about the sugar in Dunkin'
Very
Donuts. He
good.
wants to take the sugar out of Dunkin'
Here's
Donuts
the drink.
as a side
Take the drink
issue.
back. Have a little more.
And we talked
Take the
earlier
drink back.
about.
Here it is.
I don't think I want any more.
I don't think I want it either.
We talked earlier about Christie Gnome
actually
getting
quite
called
delicious.
for having her alleged affair.
Yeah.
Why does nobody care about RFK, who's married, and with this affair or whatever he had with this Olivia Nuzzi, where he sent her these texts about how he wanted her to be his Grand Canyon?
So to speak. Let's not go into what that means. Don't put that before the listeners. Well, you want a serious note.
Nobody
Why do
cares
people
about that.
think his earlier wife died by suicide? In part because of his behavior.
Yes, he had.
But that's not today's. Okay, 877. I'm not going to do this. 877-301-8970. We are talking about. We're attempting to talk about your reaction, his campaign against the worst excesses of Dunkin' and Starbucks.
Here's Sheila from North Attleboro. She's with me. Dunkin' is a total personal responsibility issue. You should pay attention to toxic chemicals and PFAS, those forever chemicals.
It's not a
that are all over
personal
the place.
responsibility thing.
And
when you live in one of
the kids.
I agree with all that. You can do three things at once. If you're living in one of the fattest nations in America, which causes huge health problems, do you know who pays those bills, Marjorie? We
Everybody
do.
does.
Higher premiums, etc. We're paying
here's
for
a
this.
Dunkin' fan. RFK will have to pry it out of my cold, dead
Well, I would
hands.
assume that's the majority position here, but I'm trying. Thank you. We're actually going to take a caller, if you don't mind. Is that okay with you? In fact, why don't you take the caller to show that you're
Bernadette
focused?
from the truck.
Hello, Bernadette.
Hi, Bernadette.
Thank God. Hi, Bernadette. Welcome.
Hi. Well, some of my thunder got stolen, but I love the Maha voters
Excellent.
because I think they're so smart and they really trust people. I think it's great that we are going to continue to fill Home Depots and whatnot with Roundup. That's encouraged. And I think, I trust this.
Also, vaccines hurt. There's no
Kennedy.
reason to get a vaccine. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no vaccines and no more Dunkins. I think he's right on 100%. I hope he comes to Massachusetts and has a rally.
That is a beautiful, that is, the sentiments you expressed were so lovely. Bernadette, thank you for calling. Call again anytime. 877-301-8970.
Eric in Haverhill says he's more concerned about teenage girls being trafficked by billionaires. After we fix that, we can address the sugar caloric intake issue.
By the way,
Great
we understand
point,
that there are more important things that are going on. We can't address every one of them in every segment. Right now, we're discussing his obsession, which is correct, with sugar.
Listen to this. Pat from New Hampshire. I asked my daughter, who is in college, how to order her coffee at Dunkin', and she said, Snow White.
Bless you.
Excuse me. And 7 sugars.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts
7
before they
sugars.
locked the back door here at GBH a bunch of years ago because you walk just across the street as opposed to having to go around the whole thing. My favorite thing is someone would order a large iced coffee with 17 sweetened lows and extra cream, or the reverse is skim milk with 17 sugars. I mean, people in this case need the heavy hand of Mr. Kennedy to at least give him some guidance. He's wrong on almost everything else. He's right on this. That's
Our
my
staff
point.
is saying that they have a photograph of RFK Jr. in
I don't
shorts
think
from
so.
March 2025.
Where is it? Put it up.
Plain text. You know what I say about that?
What?
Fake news.
Fake news, exactly.
Fake news.
Put up the damn photo. If you have a photo. Oh, my God, there he is. He is like one big muscle. Turn around and look at this on the screen over your head. Marjorie, hello.
Over my head?
It's over your head. It's on the screen up there. Look at him.
Wow.
Oh, really? That's after he took 3 pounds of steroids, by the way, that photograph.
I think that they're AI legs.
They are AI. No, you are so incredible.
I think there's something going on there.
Okay, we have to take a break. And let me explain how it's going to work when we're done, when we come back. Marjorie's not going to say anything for the rest of the show. Since we do have a topic, even though you wouldn't know it, we're going to take your phone calls and you're going to talk right here on whatever this is.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, culturally relevant Asian stories in film, TV, and streaming platforms continue resonating with global audiences, bringing in big bucks and taking home awards year after year. So, what are the latest projects elevating Asian representation in 2026? That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked #2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And Vivo Performing Arts Jazz Festival returns to Arrow Street Arts March 5th through 8th with performances by Miguel Zenon Quartet, Isaiah Collier, Chris Davis Trio, and Sullivan Fortner Trio. VivoPerformingArts.org.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. I am Jim Browdy. Marjorie Egan will not be participating in this particular segment.
Well, I have a couple of good texts, Jim.
At youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the battle brewing between Kennedy and people who consume sugary drinks, particularly from Starbucks and Dunkin. Politicians have tried to ban them before, or at least tax them, as Deval Patrick unsuccessfully did. Our number is 877-301-8970. Go ahead.
Mike in Cranston says, nobody, including NPR, should be promoting any RFK Jr. recommendations after he said he snorted cocaine off a toilet seat.
That's actually a fairly good point. That's a very good point.
And Pat Paul from Hingham says, I don't know, but she says McDonald's has a large Shamrock Shake out now that is currently 800 calories and 135 grams of sugar with 20 grams of fat.
Anonymous texter says, Jim, watch out. Today it's Dunkin' and Starbucks. Tomorrow it'll be liverwurst tubes and the nightly lunch meat bedtime sandwiches.
That's right.
Katie in Situate, Rhode Island.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Happy weekend. It's your favorite aggressive cleaner.
We're very nice.
Thank you
Glad
for
to talk
calling.
to you. Hi.
Well, I had the same comment as your last caller. One of my good friends just got banned from Facebook this week for making that comment that we should not take any advice from the buffoon of RFK Jr. saying we can't drink Dunkin' Donuts coffee, which is like, next to godliness in Massachusetts.
Wait a second.
Massachusetts.
Facebook banned them?
He snorted coke off a toilet seat. Yes, my friend got banned from Facebook, so now she is constantly messaging Mark Zuckerberg, calling him out on the fact that RFK brought this up in a podcast himself last week.
He said it.
So why can we not?
Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible.
She thinks
considering that RFK is a Massachusetts resident, I mean, Dunkin' Donuts is it's like going to church here. It's like, I think we should have Matt Damon and, Gronk and what's his face, Ben Affleck, call him out in a commercial. It's like, you can't go after Dunkin'.
Boy,
are you insane?
Another person with a strong
I know.
opinion.
Wow, that
Katie, that's
seems
horrible about your friend. She should call the newspaper or something, by the way. And you say
she is hysterical.
Yeah,
she's
that's a story. That is a story for somebody. I mean, she just told us, but we don't know who she is. Katie.
Well, we have a newsroom. We can pass that on to the newsroom,
if she's looking for someone to talk to about this, you should email us.
Actually, give a contact. Stay on hold and give a contact to our producers.
That's outrageous.
We'll pass it to the newsroom.
Okay. 877-301-8970 is the number. We're talking about Dunkin' Donuts and 180 calories of sugar, and our staff is telling us that they've seen RFK Jr.'s legs in 2025. I don't believe them.
No, the fake news thing actually makes some sense. No, it does. I mean,
Mary and Natick, what do you think, Mary?
Hello there.
Well, two things. One, I get Dunkin' Donuts, but choose not to put any sugar in my coffee.
There you go.
And the second thing is, and RFK saying nothing about the president serving McDonald's to the athletes that came to visit. That's fine.
Oh,
So that was the men's hockey team. Well, Stanley Tucci was serving the women's team a healthy, wonderful meal. It's true. Trump was giving them little ketchup packets and McDonald's kinds of things. It's a good point, Mary. Mary, thank you for your call. By the way, can I reference
YouTube poll?
What?
Read the YouTube poll.
No, okay. People don't care about Dunkin or Kennedy's legs. 57% vote to bring Mr. Potato Head back to the stream. Does that surprise you? I mean, who doesn't like Mr. Potato? There he is. He's right on the screen. Now, thank you for doing that.
Did we talk about Mr. Potato Head?
We have done on the show, I noticed, more than a couple of days ago, so you wouldn't remember. Now, let me just say this. That caller said a minute ago, we should get Affleck and Damon and somebody else involved in this thing. You know who's taking them on fairly cleverly here? Governor Healy.
Governor Healy, that's
she
right.
She said in a response on Twitter, her forward response was, "Come and take it." And I thought that was the gun owners' slogan, which I think it is, but it apparently is also a reference to the historic flag first used during the Texas Revolution. So Healy is fighting back. We'll talk to her about it on the 27th when she comes in. By the way, you know what the problem is with this drink?
He has done a good thing.
That we just had? It's almost like addictive. It is real. I don't like sweet things anyway. It is really tasty, don't you think?
I mean, that looks like one of those things that could just survive the nuclear holocaust.
That's right. The nuclear shelf life is good there. Yeah. What was the thing you were about to say?
He did do something good.
What was it?
He wants med schools to have more nutrition classes taught. That's a good idea. I mean, he does have some good ideas.
But he's going to cut their federal funding if they don't. I mean, everything is with the biggest stick with these macho losers, It's ridiculous. Gina in Mattapan, thanks for calling. Hi.
Hi, Gina.
How you doing?
We're good.
Hi. As far as he's concerned, he's a kook.
He's a kook.
He's a kook.
And no one should listen to him. Why isn't he focused on the measles outbreak?
No, that should be his first concern. You were totally right about that.
And the other thing is that the doctor that confirmed him, what was wrong? What was he thinking about confirming a kook?
You mean Senator Cassidy? Yeah.
That was terrible.
Horrible.
Thank you. And the other thing is, why would anybody listen to him when he stated that black children have different antigens and they should be on a different schedule for vaccines?
Did he say that?
I have to say I didn't know.
Yes, he did. He certainly did say that.
Wow.
When he was being confirmed.
Wow, I did not know that. We should look that up.
Well, didn't he posit that thing about blacks and certain Jews in terms of COVID?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Also, totally unproven beyond the racism aspect. Gina, we're glad you called. Call us again. Really appreciate it. What?
Fan on YouTube wants to know.
We can't understand you.
Mr. Potato Head
was also wearing jeans. Now, obviously, you don't know anything about Mr. Potato Head because he doesn't have a bottom half. If you look at, can we put it up there? There it is. Mr. Potato Head.
He has no legs.
I've always liked, he just goes right from he has no neck or no upper body either. Mr. Potato Head, his head rests on his feet, on his shoes. And
but that was a great, Van, that was a great
No, it's not
text.
great. Van obviously has nothing about Mr. Potato Head. He has no, what? It's a potato, yeah. Zoe just made the point. That's actually a more important point. Zoe just said in our ears, which is really important, that Marjorie obviously failed to mention, that Mr. Potato Head is actually a potato. Thus the name. And most potatoes do not have, but let me just say this back to Zoe. Most potatoes don't have feet either. And Mr. Potato Head, so much for your argument, Zoe. Keep it to yourself there.
Okay. Laurel on the road. Thank you for calling, Laurel.
A little bit out of control here. Go ahead, Laurel.
Hi there.
Hi, Laurel. Glad you called. Hi, welcome.
I missed the 3-hour show, I have to say.
Oh, well.
Oh, thank you very much.
I do.
I'll be thinking of you over drinks at lunch in 10 minutes. Okay.
All right, there. Cozy down. All right.
Go ahead, Laurel.
So I have to say that just his mentioning teenage girls is so offensive. I can't get beyond that. Beyond that, I think Maura Healey has a clue to this, that he could have said Starbucks, but no, it's a Massachusetts company.
No, he said Starbucks. No, he said Starbucks too, but he said both.
Okay, but it wasn't. And lastly, the thing is that when you eat sugar, your serotonin levels rise for a few hours afterwards, which makes your mood better. So, really, in this time and age when everything's so awful, I mean, would you can have a pint of Ben & Jerry's or one of these drinks. And you're going to take that away?
Yeah.
You're going to take the serotonin away?
Exactly. Let people have their sugar if they want to have their sugar. I mean, I know people are overweight, but
Laura, you're totally right about the teenage girl thing.
And by the way, speaking of the teenage girl being creepy,
thanks.
She was not a teenager. She was over. She was
The
23
nanny
at
was
the time.
23, yeah.
But the family babysitter, she talked about how he groped her in their home. She's the family babysitter when she wasn't taking care of his children. I think he's got 3 or 4 children. He said. He apologized. Of course, he said he had no memory of this incident, but he apologized anyway after she made the accusations.
And she said she doesn't accept the apology because if he's pretending he doesn't remember, what's he even apologizing for, right?
Well, there may have been so many incidents, Jim, that he couldn't remember this particular one.
By the way, I know it offends some people when we joke about it, but there's almost a requirement that you be a sexual abuser. To be, look at the screen, by the way, to be in this administration. It's me, Marjorie, and Mr. Potato
I
Head.
can see it right here.
Yeah.
I don't have to turn around.
Yeah, actually, he has a good mustache. He does have a good mustache.
It's a little,
Did you do Mr.
I
Potato
think it's a
Head?
little creepy.
Do
absolutely.
kids now do Mr. Potato Head?
Yes.
Is that only for...
It's been around forever.
They do?
Yes, they do.
They do.
I just saw them in the
Yes,
store.
I assume.
Okay, Peter from
By the way,
Newburyport.
if you've never had it, you get a potato, which is great. You don't have to buy like a whole lot, and you buy some plastic crap,
It
and you
comes with
stick
it.
it into
It
the.
comes with it.
Well, you got to
And the
buy.
kids
No,
can
the
put the
potato
mustache
doesn't
in
come
the
with
eye.
it. You got to bring your own potato. There's a plastic potato.
Yes.
Well, that's Hannah says she grew up with a plastic potato. That's ridiculous.
That's what everybody gets. They get
No,
the
you
potato.
get a real potato
Jim,
and you stick the thing into
Are you looking
it.
at Mr. Potato Head in the picture?
I don't care what
It's
it
a
is.
plastic potato.
When I
You
grew
buy
up,
it-
you had a real potato.
Toys R Us is gone
Your
now,
real
but you used to
potato.
buy it at Toys R Us, and then the kids would stick in the face all upside down, have the nose.
Did you
where the
do it
mouth
with
should
the
be.
real potato or with a plastic
With a
potato?
plastic
No, you
potato.
did not.
Well, Jim, I guess you did it in ancient days.
Well, maybe I did. They didn't have plastic when I was a child. They hadn't invented it yet, but they
Okay.
did soon thereafter.
Peter from Newburyport, thank you
have
for
30
calling.
seconds, Peter. Hi.
As an 81 baby, I had Mr. Potato Head growing up. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So my point was that the double standard of Michelle Obama wanting to plant fruits and vegetables in the White House lawn, and that being, oh my God, what can we do? Like this is blasphemy. And Sarah Palin making cupcakes for her kids as a response. Now all of a sudden it's a good thing on the other side. I think it's great that we want to address this problem, but I mean the double standard is just clear as day to me.
It is indeed.
And that was
Peter,
a great way to end this thing because
was
it's
a great
absolutely true.
way.
Everybody ridiculed Michelle Obama, and look at what we have now.
Okay, did you have Mr. Potato when you were a kid, Edgar?
Yeah.
It was a real potato or plastic?
No, it was plastic.
That's
Of course
ridiculous.
it was plastic.
That's not even a real
Jim,
experience.
I'm gonna. It's not Mr. Potato Head anymore.
What
I
is
think
it
it was
called?
2021. They dropped the Mr. It's just Potato Head.
No, why?
Yeah,
Because of the gender?
Jim,
you
you know
got to
something?
talk to Hasbro about that.
And how are you going to stick things? A potato before you cook it, Jim, is quite hard. Your little 3-year-old is going to be sticking things into
You
got
got to make it really pointy, make it nice and dangerous for
Yeah,
the kid.
that's right. Sharper than knives.
But that's how we learned.
By the way, that is a good-looking toy, though. I mean, it really is a very attractive toy.
So tomorrow, next time we should
Ears
show
are a little big,
Mrs.
but
Potato
yeah.
Head. But we have Mrs. Potato Head too. So is she no longer Mrs.
No,
Potato Head?
he said it's gender free.
It's just Potato Head. Well, Mr. Potato Head, they dropped the Mr. I don't know
What
if they
about
dropped the Mrs. from the Miss.
The baby potato heads.
I come to you with very little information. All
The
I have
baby is called Spudhead. There's no.
The baby's a
Spudhead.
real potato.
Exactly. Oh my God. Okay. See, the beauty is when you're a solo host of a show, your co-host doesn't take you in a direction that is not productive, which is what Marjorie's gets
For better
paid
or
for,
worse.
apparently.
I mean, all swords are double-edged.
Okay,
Jim.
thank you for saying that. What are you doing on the show?
Well, I mean, Marjorie, I know it's one of your least favorite things to go. How do we go from talking about Mr. Potato Head to something serious? But we are going to be talking about something a little bit serious at the top of the show, but that we're very interested in, which is essentially AI use in warfare. So we've got a couple of really good experts on this, and we're gonna
Anthropic thing.
We're gonna talk about the OpenAI and Anthropic thing, but we're also gonna kind of sort through. I mean, one of the things is when people say AI, I mean, it's not clear what they mean when they say AI. So we're gonna talk about how is it being used as far as we know, and all of that stuff.
That's
so
really
we'll get into it.
Glad
Yeah,
you're doing it. Good
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Okay, thank you very much, Edgar B. Hurwitz III. And thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio.
By the way, Ronan got you a something from Dunkin' Donuts. Edgar, enjoy it. Thank you very
great.
much.
Thank you so much.
We want to remind you that we're finally going to be back at the Boston Public Library on Tuesday, and Mayor Wu is going to join us that day. And on Monday, we'll be speaking with Sports Authority Trent Casey and Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Our engineer is John Claude Parker. Our executive producer is Jane Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena, to our host at the Newsfeed Cafe across the street at the Lennox Hotel. Thank you for all those excellent pictures of Mr. Potato Head, or just plain old Potato Head, or whatever he is, and who does not have any legs. We're suspicious about RFK Jr.'s
By the way,
legs,
you didn't read the note. Can I just say, on Thursday of next week from 12 to 1, we will have Ask Potato Head. We'll have an hour, a full hour, which you won't get anywhere else. Not on BUR, nowhere else. Ask Potato Head. You can call in and ask your questions.
Stay tuned to the
Potato Head will answer our questions, through ours and listeners. And if you come to the library, you can ask Potato Head directly.
And it is a real potato. It's a real potato.
A big one, a great big one.
Maybe a bag.
And then little spud.
Never know.
Okay, stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk.
Potato
Right
Head.
after us at 89.7 GBH. The Culture Show starts at 2. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Have a
Hope
great
you
week.
can tune in again.
Daylight Saving Time discussion Monday,
Oh, my
too.
God.
We will never forget. See you. Bye.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Brook Meadow at Cobb Center, an assisted living community offering wellness care and support services, including an on-site fitness specialist to help seniors stay physically active. More at brookmeadowslr.com. And Biogen. For nearly 50 years, Biogen has been committed to advancing biotechnology innovations to develop new medicines for people with hard-to-treat diseases. Biogen, making breakthroughs happen. Biogen.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, for a lot of us on the outside, the use of artificial intelligence in strikes on Venezuela and now Iran have felt like a distinctly through-the-looking-glass moment in terms of how wars are waged. We have got no shortage of questions, and we'll pose as many as we can to our panel of experts. Then, one Cape Cod resident is in Italy today, going for gold in wheelchair curling at the 2026 Winter Paralympics. We'll talk with one GBH reporter who has followed his rise. And finally, Little Green Men. Believe it or not, that is the name of a distant planet. That and more is ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. As Israel and the United States continue their offensive in Iran, the World Health Organization says an estimated 100,000 people have fled the Iranian capital, Tehran. Some people have made their way overland to Turkey. NPR's Ruth Sherlock is at the border crossing.
The people coming out of Iran look grey-faced and pallid from the terror they've experienced this past week. They bring with them stories of airstrikes hitting close to their cars as they journeyed out of the country, of intense bombardments in the cities that they've come from. Many with stories of civilian casualties, saying these airstrikes are landing in dense residential neighborhoods. There are also many people going back into Iran. Scared, of course, they say, to go back into a country at war, but with communications largely down, they need to know if their loved ones are safe, and going back is the only way to reach them. Ruth Sherlock, NPR News on the Turkish-Iranian border.
Amid concerns about the stock of weapons available to the U.S. military, NPR's Franco Ordonez tells us White House officials plan to meet with some of the biggest U.S. defense contractors today.
White House officials are expected to press its contractors to accelerate weapons production as the U.S. expands its war in Iran. The White House and Pentagon say the U.S. military has already hit more than 2,000 targets. President Trump says the war may last 4 to 5 weeks. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says strikes will accelerate in the coming days. U.S. officials who were not authorized to speak publicly told NPR that they're concerned about a lack of missile interceptors and may have to draw from other stockpiles. The Pentagon, though, has pushed back, saying they have sufficient precision munitions, and that once they gain more control of Iranian airspace, they'll be able to rely on less sophisticated weapons. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
A public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson is underway in Chicago this hour. He died last month at the age of 84. Here's NPR's Jason DeRose.
It's billed as Reverend Jackson's homegoing and kicked off with a rousing hymn honoring the civil rights leader, led by the Legacy Mass Choir.
We're going to ask everybody to stand up on your feet and let's celebrate his life. Y'all ready? Listen. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day.
Speakers at this service include 3 former presidents, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton, along with former Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as Christian, Jewish, and Muslim leaders from across the country. A smaller private memorial service takes place Saturday. Reverend Jackson will be laid to rest at the historic Oakwood Cemetery in Chicago. Jason DeRose, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A Chelsea family is suing the federal government after ICE agents shattered their car windows during an arrest last year. The family was on their way to church when the father, Daniel Flores Martinez, was dragged out of the car and onto the street in front of his children. Miriam Albert is with the group Lawyers for Civil Rights, which is representing the family. She says they were wronged.
That includes false arrest, battery, negligent supervision, because this is obviously a tactic that we're repeatedly seeing across the country at the hands of ICE officers. Negligent infliction of emotional distress, intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Martinez has since been deported. ICE did not respond to a request for comment from GBH. Fans of California Governor Gavin Newsom will be happy to know that he's in town promoting his new book, Young Man in a Hurry. Newsom, a potential 2028 presidential candidate, will be at the JFK Library in Dorchester tonight at 7. And while it's an invite-only event, there is a live stream of it at the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation YouTube page. In sports, the Celtics host Dallas at the Garden tonight. We're still waiting for word on if Jason Tatum will suit up for the big game. Exhibition baseball, Red Sox are just getting underway with Detroit in Florida. In the forecast, cloudy and damp today, high in the mid-30s. The sun sets at 5:40 this afternoon. Yes, sir. Foggy and damp overnight, low 32, cloudy mid-40s tomorrow. We could see 60 by Sunday. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, working to help protect small businesses and the owners that run them, offering customizable coverages to salons, accounting firms, tradespeople, and more. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. In the aftermath of U.S.-led strikes on Venezuela and now Iran, it feels as though we've entered a new era for how wars are waged, with help from artificial intelligence. Of course, that's not entirely the case. Since the emergence of AI, people and governments have been finding ways to weaponize these new tools. A lot has been bubbling under the surface in the lead up to this moment that we found ourselves in. And here to help explain what's happening with AI and warfare and where we may be headed, we're joined in studio now by Joan Donavon and Josephine Wolff. Josephine is a professor of cybersecurity policy at the Fletcher School at Tufts University. Joan is the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute. She's testified before Congress on issues around AI and deepfakes and was commissioned by West Point to research national security risks posed by AI. Josephine, Joan, thank you both for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks so much for having us.
I'd like to start by trying to get our heads around, as I just said, we sort of understand broadly, I think, that AI has been used in Venezuela and Iran. But I think when we say AI has been used, that can mean 100 million things to 10 million people, right? Something as simple, I think about how it's used in music, right? When the Beatles used AI. And, in that case, they demixed. They took John Lennon singing and pulled it away from a piano. And that's kind of one way of using AI. But that is very different than telling an AI machine learning sort of tool to write you a song from scratch. I mean, these are wildly different things. And I suspect when we're talking about AI and warfare, I'd like to zero in on what we know about how it's being used or how it has been used in these recent weeks. Maybe you can take a crack at it first for me, Joan.
I think, in popular press, let's say the investigations, particularly from 404 Media, have shown us that AI is being deployed through ICE in different ways, and that's domestic use cases. But internationally, when we are talking about what it means to integrate AI into warfare, we're talking about integrating facial recognition into drones. We're talking about endless tracking and monitoring, so surveillance of every nook and cranny that will then be processed in order to help. Let's take something as innocent as logistics, right? Around, if you're invading another country, you want to know exactly how the trains are moving food and resources around the country. AI can be used to look at satellite imagery and get a sense over time of how the railroads and the highways are working. And so AI can be used for these logistical challenges. But more often when we're talking about AI in warfare, we're also talking about, is this facial recognition technology, is all of this tracking, mapping, monitoring going to be used for things like autonomous weapons, right? Where humans are no longer in the decision-making loop, but that the AI itself is being programmed to kill. Or programmed in other ways. We've also noted upticks in the way in which AI is being integrated into the Pentagon in ways that is changing how we do recruitment, how we do retention, and that has a lot to do with your own personal data and your own information getting integrated into these systems. But when we deploy them in times of war, we're often doing it very experimentally to see what might happen.
So Josephine, do we have a sense of, last weekend, we were, Joan just said times of war. We are now in a time of war. Do we have a sense of how AI is being deployed right now?
So there are things we know, right? We know that the U.S. uses AI for intelligence analysis and has for many years now. Yeah. That when they're thinking about all of the video footage and other signals intelligence, they're going through AI as part of that process. That's the big Project Maven initiative that we've seen. What we don't know as much about, and one of the things that we're sort of seeing people talk about a lot right now, given the scale of the strikes on Iran, is the question of how much human intervention there then is, right? Is it that AI is used to surface potential targets and then there are individual people signing off on those strikes? Or is that process becoming more automated? And I think one of the reasons people are thinking a lot about that right now is just, can you really have this many targets and this many strikes that are being signed off by a human in a meaningful way, right? Or have we reached a stage of sort of more rubber stamping what the technology is suggesting?
So the role of human intervention is something that has come up here on the home front this week, and we're going to get into that with OpenAI and Anthropic and the Pentagon in sort of a three-way battle among themselves, so to speak, and human intervention or human oversight is a big piece of that. We'll get there in a second. But also I want to talk a little bit about some of those, kind of off the battle. In this regard, is not as new, both with the U.S. military using it, but countries around the world using it in times of war or times of tension. So can you give us a sense of how other governments, up to and including places like Iran and Venezuela, have or do use AI?
So I would say the government we've heard the most about, besides the U.S., is probably going to be China. And Anthropic released a report last year kind of trying to do a postmortem on how they believe the Chinese government was using their tools, Claude, for espionage. And what they found was, I thought, really pretty interesting. They said, look, Claude can be used to collect the credentials that are needed. It can be used to write the malware that's going to help exfiltrate data. It can be used to provide documentation on how did this work, what would we do again in the next scenario. So we've seen sort of some information on that. I think trying to speculate how Iran and Venezuela are using it, we would probably be thinking about using some of these similar tools, the ones that are available kind of freely to all of us.
Off the shelf, yeah.
Right.
Well, that was a major part of the Anthropic report, is that they're no longer tracking sort of hacker innovations, right? But that commercially available products are being tied into each other. And then the AI is being asked exactly how would you automate this process of account registration on certain social media platforms. That Anthropic report also found that the AI was being used to gather personal information about 30 targets. And so the AI, because it can speak and act and respond and sounds human-like, it's even trained to use personal pronouns as if it is a person. It can be deployed in these ways to extract information from people. And so Anthropic was also auditing their own tool, which is Claude, which is the one that is in, just got declared a supply chain risk by Pete Hegseth for essentially sticking to their own contract and saying we don't want we don't want Claude being used in mass domestic surveillance or in autonomous weapons.
So let's get into that a little bit. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Joan Donavon and Josephine Wolff about the use of AI in modern warfare. So I think the short version is, as you said, Anthropic had a contract with the Pentagon, and the sticking point became, it sounds like, two things for them, what everybody's now describing as red lines. One was they said, Pentagon, you can go ahead and use Claude, but we don't want you surveilling people here in the United States, and we don't want it used for autonomous weapons. So, as you said, Pete Hegseth says, okay, you're a supply chain risk. They sort of said, we're gonna go in a different direction. Somewhere through the week, Sam Altman and OpenAI, which is a different company, sort of stepped in. They sort of made a deal with the Pentagon. Unclear whether those same sort of red lines were involved in their deal or not. At first, it seemed like they were. It seems like that has been walked back a little bit. What's going on here with this battle? Because there are people who are saying that this is essentially a PR battle or a political battle, or that is a battle over principle. Judd Rosenblatt in the Wall Street Journal basically called it a farce. He says, or there are those who posit, that the guardrails that they are arguing over are not really guardrails, which is to say they are very easy to get around. And so why are we having all of these people having an argument about guardrails that aren't really going to guard anything? What do you say to that, Josephine?
So I think it's a battle over principles and PR and politics, all of those at the same time, right?
Code words for power.
Fair.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's fair.
And I think you're right to say, look, these guardrails don't always work. The Anthropic report we were just talking about, right, there are guardrails built into Claude to say, if somebody asks you to write malware, don't do it. Right. And the Chinese, and we know from the report, are instead saying, oh, no, I work for a security company. It's okay. I'm using this to write. So you're right. There's
They're pretty
lots
easy
of
to get around, right?
But on the other hand, if you're negotiating this contract with the U.S. government and they're saying, we don't even want these guardrails in place, right? Even if they're not perfect, we don't even want to be constrained in those ways. You might legitimately feel, I don't know if this is the kind of service or product I want to be providing. And part of this is saying, the guardrails depend on the people who are using them, right? And so if you're facing that kind of pushback, even if the guardrails weren't going to work perfectly, if you know that people don't want them there and are going to try to work around them, that could be a real reason to step back.
So one of the questions that comes to my mind is who is in charge of putting the guardrails in place, Joan, right? Which is to say, should we rely on these private companies to build in some sort of guardrail to their product, which seems to be what Anthropic is saying. Like, hey, if you're not going to do it, we're gonna say these are the guardrails. Should it be up to the government? Should it be up to some other body? Should there be laws? How do we? Who puts the guardrails in place?
So unfortunately, it would be our government who would be responsible for that. We are seeing different policies being put forth in other countries around keeping people's information and privacy. Privacy laws are much stronger in Europe, for instance. But the rules... The solution, what tech would call an elegant solution that OpenAI relied on, was saying, well, there's no law against killer robots. So anything we do is lawful until it's declared unlawful, which is a terrible, terrible premise to organize society on, because it just means that people are going to... Altman has this motto, you can just do things. And and that's something that's been adopted by Elon Musk. And if you remember back in the day, the urban planner Robert Moses, who built a bunch of bridges through New York, he used to say things like, a critic never built anything. And so they're moving headlong into this deterministic logic that if the U.S. doesn't build these weapons, no one else will. How it ties into domestic surveillance, and this is where local laws could become very important, is that you can permit these companies to build surveillance systems. The way they get deployed locally is through ICE and DHS, are big testing grounds for these technologies that we think are being deployed a world away, but they're actually one cohesive system where the military technology is then incorporated into local policing. And so I think one of the Achilles heels, though, of this moment that isn't going to get at our large language model problem, but will get at all of the deep fakes and the manipulated media that we're looking at is that if people were to own their likeness and own their biometric information, and that would stop the proliferation of deep fakes using real people's faces and voices, at least at the level of some of these larger companies that you could hold accountable. And so when we're talking about laws to regulate AI, you really have to think about the specific features that you don't think or that society suggests are unethical or not worth pursuing. And we went through this in 2019, 2018 around facial recognition technology.
Well, I was going to ask, how different are things now? I mean, when we're talking about mass surveillance, the reality of where we are now versus where we were 5 or 6 years ago, what is it? How different is it? There have been concerns about mass surveillance in this country for a long time now. Are these tools, can these tools do something different, faster?
Faster for sure. So one of the tools that's being used is called Mobile Fortify by ICE, but it's being used all across the globe. And if you see ICE agents putting their cameras in people's faces, it's because they're trying to get a good biometric reading that then will be used to collect information about them, identify them. If it's a government-run app, then you're getting, the agent is also getting your personal information, maybe even your social media information. We also know that Meta is trying to integrate facial recognition technology back into Meta glasses because they believe that this is a feature that can be sold. And I think one of the defining lines around what we consider consumer technology versus what we might consider weapons or military-grade technology is definitionally about how far these companies are away from the military, right? So we want to have some distance between a company like Meta that deals in personal, private and personal information from their from the production of weapons like the Meta Ray-Ban glasses.
What about the notion, Josephine? What about the notion, which you hear plenty of people say, which is that if we can't be arguing about these guardrails in a time and a place when we know that other governments, like the government of China, are not worried about these guardrails. And we worry about, in particular, using these tools in warfare in an autonomous weapon situation where someone says, well, if you're trying to build in this guardrail where a human's got to be in the loop, and China has a tool where a human doesn't have to be in the loop, we're going to be slower, we're going to lose out. In order for us to be safe, we must move forward this way.
So it's possible that's true, but it's also possible that by removing the guardrails, what you're doing is sending the signal to China and other countries, the U.S. isn't using these, and you could, imagine that being an escalatory thing rather than a de-escalatory thing. And what I would say right now, and it, feels like a very risky thing to say, because for all I know, news is breaking at this moment, is we haven't seen these fully autonomous weapon systems being deployed by countries yet, right? As in, nobody is involved in that process from target selection to actually launching a missile. And I think the surest way to make a lot of countries get there faster is for one country to decide that's what we want to do. So I think you can say, look, we have to do this because other countries might do it. Or you can say other countries might do this if we decide to take this step. And maybe that's not a world that we want to live in.
Joan, you were talking about distance from the government. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the things that strikes me, maybe this is not new at all, but it seems like in particular this battle right now with AI and government use of AI feels new to me. And I'll tell you why, because it seems to me in my lifetime, the idea with a lot of technologies, right, is that the government had them first, that the government developed it. Everything from EpiPens to microwaves to jet engines, drones, radar, GPS, the internet. Right? There was always this notion that, you think this thing you have on the consumer market's cool? You should see what the government has. They're 10 years ahead of us. But here it does seem legitimately like the private market has things and tools that the government does not have. Is that different? Is that a different world?
I think it is a different world because we've seen the backsliding of funding into the National Science Foundation. So the kinds of things that researchers like myself and Josephine do in the university, the reason why it's important for us to be independently looking at these technologies and performing these kind of audits into these systems to make sense of how they're being deployed, that is unremunerated labor. But then our work goes directly into informing Congress, informing journalists, and keeping a state of play that is outside the press release, right? And trying to understand these technologies as a development over time. And a lot of time, it's just them reheating old nachos.
Yeah.
Right? They're calling it AI. It's facial recognition
Everybody's
technology.
Calling everything AI.
Well, then the other thing is the other aspect of this is the information warfare, and that's where we are targets of it. So I don't know if anybody had the experience on Saturday of trying to figure out if the Ayatollah had passed away or not and what the repercussions were, but it went back and forth for about 4 hours. And if you were on certain platforms at that time, you were susceptible to all kinds of media manipulation, misinformation, generative AI, deep fakes. And then also you get the recycled garbage, which is bombs exploding from 10 years ago in different places. Even Trump himself posted a before and after photo of what was supposedly the Ayatollah's palace. And the before photo was a building that was about a mile away.
Right.
And so news in the moment is at stake here, especially if different countries are invested in cyber troops. And these are digital armies whose job it is to use platforms exactly as they're designed to amplify outrage and to try to create different political fissures.
So the big question then is, what can we do in this moment? Right? You point, there is so much hype around AI. It is so hard to get our heads around what is true, what is not. It's also, to be fair, can be a very complex topic. So how do we begin to take steps to educate ourselves so that we even have the tools to process the information that's coming at us, let alone be able to sort what's true or not? We just need to be able to understand the conversation. So Josephine, where should I start right now today if I want to be like, listen, I just want to be an informed human on this issue?
So I think the most important things to me are look for some really concrete explanations of how AI is being used, right? Instead of this rhetoric about like the next war is the AI war,
right.
Really go down into the details of what do we mean by that? What are governments doing? What does that look like? And I think from a sort of advocacy standpoint, a lot of that right now is advocating for more transparency around these contracts, around how these tools are being integrated into various types of war-related systems, and really pushing for a little bit more public insight and visibility that we're starting to get as some of these sort of fights break out between companies and the government, but are really important and are useful because a lot of the companies that the government is going to are the same companies that individual consumers are going to, right? Anthropic, OpenAI also care what individuals think because they're also trying to market to them, unlike the big defense contractors.
Gotcha. Real quick, Joan, what can I do?
I think, parsing what all of this means is going to be really important. When we're dealing with generative AI, we have 4 basic types of products. One is large language models creating text, audio impersonation, video impersonation, and then you have the code. It actually, what these things are meant to do is write code.
Is create themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I think understanding the limits of generative AI, that is like the production of new text and video and audio, from what's coming, which is agentic AI, which is AI that makes decisions for you. And acts as a digital replica. And so I do think that educationally, we do need much more popular education around these new products as they hit the market. Because ultimately, emerging technology companies bet on regulation lagging and the public needing to organize against them. And so they run as fast as they can.
Move fast, break things.
But also, when you adopt a philosophy of you can just do things and you're using tens and tens of billions of dollars to force this into the world, I think we need to have much more deliberation about why.
Yeah. We've been speaking with Joan Donavon and Josephine Wolff. Josephine is a professor of cybersecurity policy at the Fletcher School at Tufts University. Joan is the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute in Boston University, assistant professor of journalism and emerging media studies. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just ahead, the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games are kicking off just about right now in Italy. One Cape Cod wheelchair curler is going for gold. We'll talk with a GBH reporter who has followed his rise. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. After pulling his Lincoln Symphony from the Kennedy Center, composer Philip Glass will premiere the work this summer with the BSO at Tanglewood. And RFK Jr. has brewed a fight, dunking on Dunkin for sweetening America's sugary iced coffee habit. And for the final send-off, a $500 urn with built-in speakers promises an eternal playlist, because even the Afterlife needs a DJ. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering 2 to 3 day courses and executive certificates for professionals seeking cutting-edge business insights on innovation, cybersecurity, AI, and more. Info at executive.mit.edu. And Boston Lyric Opera, presenting Mahler's Song of the Earth, a staged production that fuses symphony and theater, featuring Rhianne Bryce Davis and more, March 20th through 29th at the Opera and Community Studios. Tickets at blo.org.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, you've all seen the Olympics coverage wall to wall every 2 years, pretty hard to miss. But the Paralympics, now that is something that doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves, though that has been changing as more and more people discover that the games are just as riveting, compelling, heartbreaking, and exhilarating as any other elite-level sporting event. The opening ceremonies for the Milan Cortina Games are underway right about now. The games run until the 15th. The U.S. is sending 72 athletes to Italy to compete this year. One is wheelchair curler Sean O'Neill. Recently, GBH's Megan Smith spent time at the Cape Cod Curling Club, where he was training for the Winter Paralympics, and she joins me now. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, Edgar. Good to be here. Excited to talk about this.
Yeah, great to have you. So tell us about your journey to the Cape Cod Curling Center and Curling Club, I guess I should say.
I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Tell us.
It's great to see these places that our job takes us. I don't think I ever thought I would be at the Cape Cod Curling Club learning about wheelchair curling. So I cover disability for GBH News. So for a while, I've been doing stories about accessibility. And whenever I get a chance, I like to do, the more fun stories about sports, recreation. And I had done some coverage about previous Paralympics, like the 2024 Paris Paralympics were the Summer Games. So I was looking ahead to the Winter Olympics, and I was scouring the roster of all of the sports. And I was looking at everyone's hometowns, and I saw that Sean from Cape Cod was on Team USA wheelchair curling. So I reached out to the curling club. Oh, yeah, there he is. And I met him, I talked to him virtually in December, and then he invited me to one of the team's practices at the Cape Cod Curling Club in January, and I got to spend the whole day there. It was a freezing day outside, and it was freezing inside that curling rink. I have to say, they're troopers for spending hours. There was a little temperature tracker, and it was no more than 40 degrees the whole day in there.
Yikes.
But it was so fun. I learned a lot. And I learned that the USA has never won a medal in wheelchair curling, so they are excited to go for gold.
Yeah, so we've got a little clip from your time there. For those of us who might not know where the U.S. stands when it comes to the Paralympic rankings for something like curling, here is Sean O'Neill setting the stage for us.
Top team by rankings is China, and some other top teams, Canada. They have consistently been a medal contender and been on the podiums pretty much every international wheelchair competition, and potentially at every international wheelchair competition.
Yeah.
Then, Norway, Sweden, excellent teams. We have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, so it sounds like a tall task, but just your time there, spending time with Sean and the athletes, coaches, like what was it like? What are your memories?
Yeah, it was so fun. And I will say Sean's first game is Saturday. So if anyone wants to tune in, and we'll talk about how you can watch and all. But, it was so great. It was really cool to see how the Cape Cod Curling Club has really put a lot of effort into making their club accessible. And they have this whole wheelchair program to invite people from the community to start wheelchair curling if they want to. Sean actually started wheelchair curling at the Cape Cod Curling Club 4 years ago because he went to an open house before the Beijing Paralympics.
Oh, that's so cool.
He had never done it before. He went there, and as he says, he caught the curling bug. And then he trained. He lives right around the corner from there, so he's trained for the last 4 years, and then he made the team. And it was also just really great to see the team come together. They all live. I think there's 7 total people on the wheelchair curling team. They live all across the country in different states. So when I met Sean, the team had been traveling every month to meet together so they could actually practice. So a lot of logistics involved in doing this. And Sean is he's a full-time lawyer. He's an accomplished lawyer. So he does this just because he loves it so much. A few of the other members of the team a few of them were disabled veterans. So I just really liked, getting to know them. And I learned that 4 other Cape Cod curlers from the Cape Cod Curling Club have gone to the Paralympics. So the Cape Cod Curling Club has a bit of a...
It's like a factory of
it's like this legacy.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, and a few of them were there at that event, just training and giving advice. So it was so fun. Curling is curious, it's like...
It is indeed. Yeah, you're listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with GBH's Megan Smith about our coverage of Paralympians and adaptive sports in general. Can you give us a sense of, there are ways in which the Paralympics is exactly like the Olympics, and there are ways in which it's not. Can you kind of give us a sense of how it's similar and how it's different?
Yeah, I mean... If anyone's wondering, the term Paralympics has roots in parallel and parity. So it's meant to kind of be running parallel to the Paralympics, the Olympics. And it always happens about 2 weeks after the Olympics. And it's, like you say, it's very similar. Athletes from all over the world come compete. This is competitive. They have to qualify in the same way that Olympic athletes do. The Paralympics is significantly smaller. There's about 600 athletes going to this Paralympics, which I think the Milan Cortina Olympics, I think there were maybe like 3,000, Olympic athletes. There's less sports in the Winter Paralympics. There's about six, there's more events, but there's about six sports. But I would say, they compete and they train, and just the same way that any Olympic does. And you can watch at home on NBC. As we talked about, like, viewership for the Olympics is just, it's everywhere, right? I think viewership for the Paralympics is way, way less. It's been getting better over the years, but I think it still has a lot to go in terms of awareness. But as Sean said, like, the drama and tension of wheelchair curling, like, if you like curling, watch wheelchair curling.
Yeah, absolutely. More curling. More curling is better curling.
Yeah, one thing I learned when I was there with Sean was that there's no sweeping in wheelchair curling. Like, so if like the people who go with the brooms.
They got the brooms to sort of alter the shot a little bit, like kind of fix up any little tiny mistakes.
Yeah, wheelchair curlers don't have that. They just have to be completely like accurate and precise when they push the rock into the house. So I learned some curling lingo there too. So yeah, I think anyone should tune into the Paralympics for the same reason you watch the Olympics: the competitiveness, the drama. Speaking
of tuning in, as you mentioned, NBC and Peacock covering it, and it has been something that has sort of been increasing in viewership. I have seen around this Paralympics today. In fact, there are a couple of watch parties going on in the region.
Oh, yeah.
You actually attended a watch party for the Summer Olympics. And this was at Spalding. So we have a little sound from that. I think Spalding is doing one today for the Winter Paralympics as well. But let's have a listen to a little of this sound. Maybe you could tell us about it.
But this is the first time I'm actually going as a pure spectator and as a fan of two of my patients. So it's the first time, and I'm excited to be in the stands and not be responsible for anything other than yelling loudly. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that was a doctor at Spalding Rehab Hospital. He's in charge of the amputee program there. So a number of his former patients have gone on to compete in the Paralympics. So that watch party was for the Paris Summer Paralympics in 2024. And he was getting ready to go watch two of his patients who are both, there was a swimmer and a runner who were going to be competing in the Paralympics. And his former patient, Morgan Stickney, actually won a gold and a silver medal in Paris. And then I got to go back and meet her. I got to hold her gold medal, which was really cool.
Nice.
Was
it heavy?
Oh my gosh, it was so heavy. It was like, and the design that year, so he has all the ridges. It was so cool. Again, like where our job takes us. I never thought I would hold a gold medal. Spalding, it was fun. It was fun to talk to the people there about why adaptive sports and recreation is so important. I think, like, the doctor said that he always encourages his patients to get involved in some sort of adaptive sport and recreation as they're recovering for the physical benefits of it. But I think people are drawn to adaptive sports for the same reason anyone else is drawn to sports. It's fun, gets you outside, good, physical fitness, all that. And Spalding has a bunch of programs for people to, if they want to get started, to do all these adaptive sports.
Megan, before I let you go, I wonder how, you talk about, the job and the beat and how you go to places that you never expected to go. And in the context of this and covering, the Paralympics in particular, how has it changed you as a person learning about this stuff?
Yeah, I've been on such a journey covering disability for the last 3 years. I think I look at the world totally differently than I did when I started covering this. Like when you just walk down the street and you see curb cuts and you see, potholes and, snow this winter, like it just, our day-to-day life can be so different when you think about these things. And I went to an adaptive cross-country skiing event in January, and I talked to one of the people running the event, and she said, obviously, like, sports and recreation is great, but one of the best things about the program is that it allows people, someone may have had an injury or illness, and they haven't been able to go out with their family to just go spend a day outside in the winter or go, on a hike. And adaptive programs like the ones that are, around our area allow people to go do that together for the first time. So I think getting to cover sports, like, I never thought I would. I'm not naturally a sports person, but I have just had so much fun getting to know people through these activities, and all the way down from, just the recreation to the people that are at the highest level of sports. So it's been just very, very eye-opening, and I can't wait to watch this weekend.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit of your work with us and your insights into what your work has done for you. We've been speaking with GBH senior digital reporter Megan Smith. Stay with us. Just ahead, Little Green Men is out there in the universe, says one astrophysicist. Aliens? Leprechauns? No, it's something else entirely, and it is something that makes the is in that first sentence grammatically correct. You're listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7 and live streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Stay with us.
Nearly a week since the U.S. and Israel began launching missiles at Iran and killed the country's supreme leader, Iran continues to hit back at U.S. allies in the Gulf.
It is about causing as much political and social pain to Westerners and of trying to punish the United States as well for the assassination of Khamenei.
I'm Juana Summers. How the war is impacting the region on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Each month, we try to make space to look up to space. The stars, the planets, that whole universe waiting to be seen through a telescope lens or even just by looking up. With us as our stargazing authority today is Anjali Tripathi. Anjali is an astrophysicist who's worked at NASA, the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, served in multiple White House administrations, and today is with us on the Curiosity Desk. Anjali, it's great to have you back.
It's great to look up with you again, Edward.
Oh, well, that's lovely. So before we get into all the stuff that I want to talk about, you had mentioned on a previous visit, and we just had this week, a little lunar eclipse that happened, right? So did you have a chance to see it or see pictures of it, or could you even see it where you are?
So out here in LA, we had clear skies by my house up until totality. So I've got this great video of watching the moon get darker and darker. And if you're just looking through a telescope, which I had set up, at one point it went dark, and I thought, I don't think it should be dark outside. And of course, that was every astronomer's nightmare, the clouds rolling in and blocking out the moon. But, everybody, my family, friends, were all able to see it get dark and then look at that blood worm moon, since it was the first one in March.
Nice. Well, that's great. I mean, as somebody who studies this stuff, you still like it when you see something like that? You still kind of get the goosebumps and stuff?
I don't know about the goosebumps, but it's definitely still this really awe-inspiring sort of moment of wonder because, when you have a total solar eclipse and it goes dark during the day, that's a really big contrast. But even at night, going from a full moon to the moon has gone missing, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, where was it? Oh.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. So I hope you get to see one soon, Edgar.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about the month of March, which is the month we're in. What's happening in the skies that we ought to be taking note of? One thing that springs to my mind is I believe we have a season change, right? And that means we have some sort of astronomical event.
That was a great pun with it springing to mind, right? Because we have the vernal equinox, or nowadays some people call it the northern equinox, coming up on March 20th. So just after 10 o'clock in the morning, it will be officially spring. And that's because the Earth will be in just the right place in its orbit for the tilt to be sort of sideways to the line to the sun. And so what that means is that we'll actually have a day that's roughly equal day and night. So equinox, the word is equal night. So if you were at the poles, for example, this would be the time when you were changing from your one day of the year to your one night of the year, or vice versa. So it's a pretty cool thing to know that after this point, the days are going to get longer.
Yeah,
so we can
best.
start.
Yes.
Start to feel a little warmer, both from the longer days and getting some more sunlight in, as well as given that the Earth is tilted about 23 degrees off of the plane, that now you'll also be at the right angle to get a little bit more sunlight coming at you.
And I think it's important to note that, we can kind of talk about this using a lot of sort of modern ways of thinking about it. But this is the kind of thing, the equinox, which humans have like sort of sussed this out a very, very long time ago. And we sort of see the remnants of that in our calendar still today, right?
I mean, you can think of how many celebrations are actually organized around the equinox. So the Persian New Year, Nowruz, is actually around the equinox. And actually in the Middle East, they celebrate Mother's Day around that time too. So countries will be celebrating that on the 21st of this month. And then, of course, in Judeo-Christian society, Easter, right, you would have it being the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the equinox, or Passover is just that first full moon afterwards. So lots of things in our calendar which we sort of take for granted. And apart from just wanting to soak up those rays and be warm up here in the Northern Hemisphere, all have their basis in our orbit and our tilt.
So speaking of things getting warmer, one of the things that happen when things get warmer here on Earth is things get greener, finally, after a long brown, white, gray, cold winter. But I want to talk a little bit about green things in space. Since, it is a green time of year. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, another very green moment for March. What's green about it seems there's not a lot of green things in space. Am I right or am I wrong about that?
I mean, Kermit said it best. It's not easy being green, right? And that's because, our eyes can sense all kinds of amazing colors, right? I can sense the green of my plants and lots of things around me. But if you look up at the heavens, how often have you seen a green star?
Yeah, I feel like never. When I actually stop and think about it, it's kind of like I can't think of a time where I really do see green in the skies.
So I'm really glad that you said no, because there are no green stars. And
There's
if you
none.
had said yes, I'd say time
You're
to
a
go see
liar.
the doctor, Edgar, right? There were no green stars. There were no cyan or magenta stars. And part of the reason for this is stars, right? You can get these bright white, hot ones that are sort of bluish, all the way down to the sort of yellow, orange, and red. And that's because the way that stars emit light is on the sort of continuous spectrum where the way our eyes perceive it, so it's something about both how the stars are emitting light and the way that our eyes are tuned, that we can pick up those colors I mentioned, the whites, the orange, the blues, the reds. But green is sort of in the middle, right? When you think Roy G. Biv, G's right in the middle, that you're not actually going to pick that up. So in astronomy, the only way we can pick up green colors is if something is emitting light that's just at that perfect wavelength. And so this means that the aurora are green, right? In the sky. And also some nebulae out in space get that green color. And those both come from oxygen emitting light at that perfect wavelength where there's so much energy coming around, whether it's from charged particles from the sun, jumping into our atmosphere and the magnetic field lines, getting them a little kicked up so they emit green light. It's something unusual. And it's so unusual, actually. Just a quick side note. In the 19th century, people couldn't understand why nebulae were green. And they said there must be this crazy new element called nebulium. And that's why it's green. Yeah. And so it wasn't until much later that people were like, oh, it's oxygen. It's just on Earth we don't get things kicked up that excited as much to explain that green color. You have to go out in space to make that happen. And so if you want to go look up a picture, there's a nebula called the Little Gem Nebula that, kind of like little gem lettuce, some people say is green.
Oh, very nice. Now, we teased earlier that there is also something truly up in the stars that, is not little green men, but there is something called little green men. Is that true?
That is definitely true. So I will say we will not be talking about little green men that we have discovered on today's show, apart from Little Green Men 1. And that was in 1967. There was a woman in England who was using these big radio antenna, and every 1.3 seconds, she would get a signal. So, right, it's like blip, 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 blip. And so until they figured out what it was, they actually called it LGM, short for Little Green Men 1, because they thought, what would be out in space in the 60s that just keeps sending us radio signals every second?
Little Green Men.
Little Green Men.
I like that their signal was just blip, 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 on, you know, I guess.
Right? I mean, because it's the sort of thing that you think like, wait, is someone trying to like send me a message in Morse code? What's going on? And it ended up called a pulsar, where it's actually sending out these signals every second or so, and we can do all kinds of cool science with it. But that was the very first pulsar that was discovered. So it went on to lead to a Nobel Prize, and not unfortunately for Jocelyn Bell Burnell, the amazing woman who actually took the measurements, but for her advisor and colleagues, Tony Hewitt.
Oh, no, wait, her advisor and her colleagues, but she was the one who discovered it?
When I was a graduate student in Cambridge, the other one, right? I still remember meeting her advisor, and he was telling us stories about women back in the day, and I thought, you should talk about your female students. So anyway, in honor of Women's History Month, we celebrate Jocelyn Bell Burnell and the pulsar that is known as B1919 plus 21. The funny numbers, by the way, are based on its position in the sky, and the 0 position in the sky is actually based on the vernal equinox.
Oh, well, there you go. Although I do like Little Green Men better as a name. It's a little bit easier to remember. We're talking with astrophysicist Anjali Tripathi about what to look up and see this month. So speaking of that, what's up? What should we look up and see this month? Anything good?
All right. So as we know, we're going to spring forward this weekend with the time.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that I've heard a couple of times of spring forward, fall down. And that isn't just about me having trouble waking up now. But actually, if you look at the Big Dipper throughout the spring, you'll actually notice that the handle is pointing down. So like the water is going to fall out at your little plow.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool.
So that's something that you can go up and look for and see like, yes, now I know where we are in the seasons. We're in spring. At the same time, we've got Leo the Lion, who's there rising.
Yes.
With its big shiny star, bright star Regulus. And some other constellations are starting to come up. We'll see them more throughout the spring, but the main one is Virgo. Virgo is actually in what we call the ecliptic, right? That sort of line that the sun is going to pass through. For us, well, always, but it matches nicely on the equinox. And so that's something that next month we can talk a little bit more about the spring triangle or the great diamond around Virgo, which you might be able to see later this month, but otherwise wait till next month. So the stars, the constellations are doing great things. The planets, though, it's kind of exciting that we get to celebrate a birthday next week.
Oh, go on.
Guess whose birthday is next Friday?
Next Friday, and it's a planet. It's probably not Earth. It's probably Saturn.
It's actually going to be the anniversary of the discovery of Uranus.
Okay.
So in 1781, Uranus was discovered by William Herschel, also in the UK. And it's kind of crazy, though, to think. I always like talking about Uranus to people, not just because it has a funny name, but because... Think about it. When America was founded, right, 1776, we only knew about the same planets that they had known about since the ancient times, right?
That's wild.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So the very first planet that was discovered beyond the ones that you can see with the naked eye was discovered through this telescope in 1781. And Uranus, it turns out, is a little bit green from some of the methane in its atmosphere.
Happy birthday, Uranus!
You probably won't see it up in the sky. It is up this month with a telescope. You might be able to catch it. But it is kind of fun to think about that fact that we are celebrating that discovery, less than 300 years later. So, but if you do want to catch a fun planetary sight in the sky, if you're kind of careful and you look around sunset, then on March 8th, Venus and Saturn will be within about a degree of each other on the sky. This is called a conjunction.
Conjunction.
It's something that, it's just the way things look. Sometimes they look close in the sky, even though we know that Venus and Saturn are very far apart from us in space.
Yes, this is an important point for you to make. When they appear to be close in the sky, they are not about to run into each other.
There are lots of things out there in space that, like, the way they look to us is just how we're situated. I mean, one other kind of cool thing this month is that if you look at the moon when it's a crescent, and you might have noticed this last month, it's illuminated at the bottom here in the northern hemisphere, and so it's kind of like it's smiling at you just from its orbit. So lots to see, and if you've got a telescope, it's galaxy season, so a good time to look out at galaxies outside our own.
All right. We have been speaking with Anjali Tripathi. She's an astrophysicist who has worked at NASA, the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, and served in multiple White House administrations. Anjali, thank you for being with us for this Stargazer's Guide. Let's do it again next month.
Sounds good. See you then, Edgar.
As always, if you have a question about the stars or the skies or the planets or anything at all, please reach out to us here at the Curiosity Desk. You can always send us an email at curiositydesk@wgbh.org, or you can go to our website and fill out our handy dandy form. Again, it doesn't have to be about space. It can be about just about anything you want to ask us about. That's curiositydesk@wgbh.org or on the web. I am now joined by one Jared Bowen of The Culture Show, who is with me to regale us with all of the cool stuff you were going to be talking about in just moments here on GBH.
Yes, we're going to be talking about, we'll start in the Middle East, and of course being aware of there's been so much death and destruction, but also death and destruction in the cultural sector, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the National Planning Commission and what it's hearing about the proposed ballroom by President Trump.
My goodness.
As you can imagine, there have
Yeah.
been lots of choice conversation, and we'll talk about solo seating at the theater.
So what about solo seating at the theater?
Well, are you comfortable going to concerts and theater productions all by yourself?
Is it cheaper, do you think, like a seat by itself?
Well, you know how I used to do this.
Yes.
You'll have to tune in to find out. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, please do.
So this is the one that I think is most interesting. Just in terms of engagement, there is a new urn that's been put on the market, and you can program a playlist to play To Your Ashes for the rest of your afterlife.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
So Joyce, Kelly, and I have each chosen one song that's going to be
on your eternal playlist.
Yes.
Oh, that is an absolute tune in to find out what is happening with that. I really want to know.
As everybody thinks about their own, we will reveal ours. And I don't know what Joyce and Kelly have chosen. I cannot wait to find out.
That is awesome. That is Jared Bowen and The Culture Show coming at you in just 2 short minutes. That is it for us, though. For now, the Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels is our steady hand, our engineer today. John the Claw Parker. Special thanks to David Goodman and Andrew Massawa for their audio engineering prowess. We will be right back here with you on Monday on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. Until then, have a great weekend. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, and you stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Bryant University, ranked 5th in the nation for internships and recruiter demand by LinkedIn's 2025 Top Colleagues list. Committed to preparing students to be day one ready for success. Learn more at bryant.edu. The Italian trio Il Volo return with a breathtaking concert filmed in Sicily's ancient Temple of Concordia. Their upcoming tour stops in Boston, and we've got tickets. Tune in for Il Volo in the Valley of the Temples, tonight at 8:30 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the Culture Show News Desk, I'm Henry Santoro. Legendary performer Barbra Streisand is in talks to perform at this year's Oscars as part of an in memoriam tribute segment on Robert. Streisand starred alongside Redford in the blockbuster 1973 movie The Way We Were. It's the only film the two were in together. How big was this title song? Well, it was so big it was Billboard's #1 single of 1974, also won Song of the Year at the Grammys. And it's been a while since the public has seen the 83-year-old Streisand perform in public. We're still waiting for confirmation from the folks at the Academy Awards on whether or not she'll show. And fans of the immensely popular PBS show Antiques Roadshow will be thrilled to hear about what's called the grandest arts and antiques fair in the world, and it's happening from March 14th through the 19th. That is the good news. The bad news is that it takes place in the tiny Dutch town of Maastricht in the Netherlands. TFAF, or the European Fine Art Foundation, brings together 276 leading dealers from 24 countries across 5 continents. The objects these dealers offer span some 7,000 years of history, from ancient civilizations to contemporary design, making it one of the broadest art market platforms in existence. Think of Antiques Roadshow on steroids. Finally, it brings me joy to share the news that my cat Oliver just yesterday completed 6 months of chemotherapy for cancer, and it looks like he's in remission. Say hello, Oliver. Now you want to ring the bell? That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live from Studio 6.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show. Coming up today, a major musical pivot. The Boston Symphony Orchestra lands a surprise world premiere. After withdrawing his new symphony Lincoln from the Kennedy Center, composer Philip Glass has moved the debut to Tanglewood this summer. From there, it's a wonder the National Capital Planning Commission website hasn't broken the internet. That's where tens of thousands of Americans are posting comments about President Trump's extreme ballroom makeover, comparing it to everything from Mar-a-Lago meets Versailles to a Vegas wedding hall. Plus, in the Middle East, the battlefield is also a cultural landscape. Military strikes have damaged historic sites in Tehran, including the UNESCO-listed Golestan Palace and parts of the city's centuries-old Grand Bazaar, raising alarm among historians and preservation groups about the loss of cultural treasures. And Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is dunking on a New England institution. He's demanding that Dunkin prove that drinks with more than 100 grams of sugar are safe for teenagers. And Bay State loyalists are not amused. The backlash includes memes, mock revolutions, and a governor tweeting, "Come and take it." We take on that and more right now on our Arts and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show on 89.7 GBH and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
I'm Joyce Kulhawick.
And we're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines, starting with composer Philip Glass. In January, he canceled the Kennedy Center debut of his new symphony, Lincoln, saying the values of the Kennedy Center today are in direct conflict with the message of his symphony. Now, in news we broke here on The Culture Show, it's the Boston Symphony Orchestra that will give the piece its first performance this summer at Tanglewood, bringing a politically charged premiere to Massachusetts. Here's what BSO President and CEO Chad Smith told me this week.
I just got a note from Philip, who said that he is offering to the Boston Symphony at Tanglewood the performance of Lincoln, his Symphony number 15. So many of you will recall that this was supposed to be premiered just in a few weeks in Washington, and he pulled that performance. But
Kennedy Center.
At the Kennedy Center. So, but Philip said he's looking forward to hearing it for the first time at Tanglewood on July 5th. And it's a program all about Lincoln. And I can't think of another political leader from our past that I'd like to think about more at this time.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit before we talk about just the magnitude of this happening. Of course, we've been talking on this show about the many artists who've pulled out of the Kennedy Center. I think now it's an economic decision as much as anything else, because there are whole pockets of empty seats before, of course, the center was shut down for quote-unquote construction that seems to be imminent. But what Philip Glass did was, again, we have not heard it yet because it will premiere here in Massachusetts, but he's created a piece based on a series of speeches by Abraham Lincoln, the earliest being when he was 28 years old as a young legislator. This was his 1838 Lyceum address, and he'd addressed mob law, public indifference, a loss of faith in government, how all of those scenarios give rise to a destructive leadership. So, yep.
Talk about timely.
I don't need to say any more. So for obvious reasons, because of the way the Trump administration in particular has placed the arts in a chokehold, he said, we're pulling it. And I think this is such a coup for the Boston Symphony Orchestra to land this piece.
I would say, yes. I mean, anytime, first of all, you get to debut something, that's a coup in itself. But because of the content of the material and the fact that it's coming at the end of a 4-day celebration of America 250 at Tanglewood, I mean, win, 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 win.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have to say, when I first was hearing about artists pulling out of the Kennedy Center, I was not necessarily in favor of them, giving up that platform to, the enemy. It's but I understand this completely, partly because, and in his statement, I wish he had said that he is pulling out because the values of his piece do not align with those of the Trump Kennedy Center, which has been renamed. I mean, what could be farther from what Lincoln embodies than what this president embodies, which is, recreating and reshaping the world in his own image, from, hanging his picture on the front of the DOJ to wanting to handpick the leaders of countries that we invade.
Well, don't even have to go there. He handpicked everybody on the commission.
Well, exactly.
At the center.
I mean, from the ground up.
And then expressed great surprise that they named him chairman.
Yeah.
And Joyce, I'm glad you brought that up, because I, too, in many debates with Jim Browdy, actually, on BPR, I said the same thing. Take the stage if you have the opportunity and you have an audience to express yourself. Why shy away from it? However, things change. Just as opinions change, ours have, for at least for my reasons, because the values within the Kennedy Center changed. There was less of an audience to address.
Less? I mean, let's be real. We barely have an audience now.
Well, there were still pockets of audiences showing up, but also the institutions that were in-house there, except for the National Orchestra, have now gone on to other
And then to mask
organizations.
that, Trump says, well, the place needs renovation, so I think we're going to close it down. So once again, he has kind of deflected and hidden the truth here. But what that place now represents is different from what it was initially, even after he overtook the board. Once he renamed that thing, it became this alien place where artists who believe in freedom of expression, which is, the foundation really of our democracy, and everything that Lincoln stood for, could not possibly reside. So I'm really thrilled that it ended up in Boston, the cradle of liberty. I think it's fabulous at Tanglewood. I can't wait to hear it.
And we should point out that's going to be happening on July 5th, and that is part of their whole series around the July 4th weekend. Kelly, as you mentioned, 250 with myriad celebrations, and again, congratulations to them. Well, next, staying in Washington, more than 30,000 people turned the National Capital Planning Commission's public comment section into a kind of national design jury, responding to President Trump's proposed big ballroom. They wrote it's everything from a gold-plated monstrosity to a dictator's vanity project to cheap and appalling. That tone continued with in-person testimony at a commission meeting in Washington yesterday.
I'm not an architect, but the new design, it's ugly. It's just ugly. It's too much.
This gaudy, pretentious monstrosity is projected to dwarf in size the actual people's White House.
250 years ago, people of America rejected monarchies. And we don't have palaces for that particular reason.
I think that this is great that our president is giving us a gift, and we should be thankful and blessed to have had someone like President Trump, who's had decades of doing this project.
So that last sentiment is really an outlier. That's not just me saying this. If you look at the statistics, it's about 97 to 99% of people who are weighing in on this, whether it's online or showing up at this in-person testimony, have said that essentially they, in the lightest terms, oppose it, but many are appalled by it, to such an extent that this commission, the National Capital Planning Commission, which is now populated by appointed members of Donald Trump, have said that they're going to move the decision on whether or not to approve this construction project to next month. But if you're watching on our GBH News YouTube stream, we're streaming images of this now. we heard how big it was going to be, but when you see these design renderings that
in 3D,
that literally dwarf the White House executive residence, that main building, this is incomprehensible.
Which is kind of ironic, isn't it? That it would dwarf the executive mansion because, he sits in the executive. So maybe he's even going to move his offices to this new East Wing or this ballroom.
But maybe not because, he considers himself to be an entertainer and an MC.
Well, hence the building that's going to host and home all of those things.
That's right.
Is the largest building on the grounds. They're actually, though, thinking of maybe adding a second floor to the West Wing, I think, just to make it look a little bit more symmetrical. But the thing is a monstrosity, and it's just over the top and gaudy, sort of like everything he aesthetically values. Surface.
I think it's very important to note that all of the boards and commissions that have to sign off on the plans were all appointed by him. So there was no place for any objective response to a design because all those people have to, that's it. That's their whole purpose. So I don't even know why we're waiting for any, what I mean?
See, it's interesting to try to decode that because there's also a judge right now who's reviewing a lawsuit that's been brought by the Historic Commission, which is something that he has not been able to take over. That would be the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The judge denied their efforts to put a stay on this, but basically on technical reasons, and actually gave them a blueprint to correcting their lawsuit so that this can be considered. We have to, again, point out that this is a process that generally takes years. We're talking about these major historic buildings in Washington. I still can't get over the fact that the East Wing was just demolished. And we woke up one morning to see this underway in Washington, and it's baffling to me that something like this can move forward. And to go back to what you were saying in the last segment, Joyce, I was somebody who said, I see a need for a ballroom. When I learned that all of these state dinners were happening in tents on the lawn, I thought, well, maybe a building would be nice.
Yeah, a building would be nice, but not like this.
And you don't just destroy the whole, come on.
Exactly, Callie, exactly right. You don't just suddenly take a wrecking ball without having gone through any kind of a review process. So this judge, getting back to your point, has actually given them a way to challenge this legally, to challenge the president's statutory authority to maybe stop, to actually do this. So I went into the complaint that's been filed, and the complaint states, no president is legally allowed to tear down portions of the White House without any review or construct a ballroom on public property without giving the public the opportunity to weigh in before the demolition of the most recognizable and historically significant building in the country. So this is such a tangible representation of what this guy is good at, destroying. And let's not get into the details of how we're going to do that or who has the right to do it. I'm doing it. And then regulation, et cetera, will pick up the pieces later.
Well, the problem here is, of course, regulation can't pick up these pieces.
Yeah.
Because what he's decided, I mean, he's from the school of do it and not even apologize afterwards. Just do it and just say, I did it. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because you can't piece it back together.
Exactly.
So here we are. So something has to go there.
He always does this.
So his thing is, well, if something has to go there, might as well be what I say.
It's a brilliant modus operandi.
And the eye in there is just so appalling again because regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, this is the people's house at the end of the day. This is America's house, the history's house. It's not one individual's house. So thankfully, there are so many people who now consider themselves rightful design experts as they weigh in on this. So, of course, we will continue to follow this as we move forward and see what the vote will be in April.
Daylight come and me want go home.
That is no mistake. Speaking of ballrooms, you may want to add the Viennese Waltz to your ceaseless soundtrack. The $495 Eternal playlist, Urn, lets people curate the music that will accompany them into the afterlife. The concept struck a chord. The limited stock sold out immediately, and that, of course, was a reference to Beetlejuice and the afterlife and all the joy you can have in the afterlife. I saw you both a little confused. Why are we playing this?
No, I got it.
Well, I thought it was one of our picks.
I got it.
So to play this out for people, play this out. I didn't even mean to say that. There is this urn that came from Spotify, and yes, it's $495. You open up the lid, and there's a Bluetooth speaker. So as long as the technology can survive for the rest of your afterlife, you can program a playlist to play to your ashes. So if we're all musical people, and we all are, because we all have the soundtrack to our lives or our afterlives, we can now have this music. So we decided to play a little game here on The Culture Show. And Callie, Joyce, and I have all chosen one song that we will have play. And I love this game so much because I have no idea what you chose. The producers worked in dark, secret corners to make sure that I saw nothing. So before we play our song, do we have anything to say about this?
Yes. Do you want a little why I chose my song or something else? I can do either.
Well, yeah, let's go right into our songs.
Okay. So I would say I struggled. I wanted a theme and I wanted a tongue-in-cheek, sort of what you did. My first choice was At Last, but in the end I did End of the Road, Boys to Men.
Let's hit it. Callie, you're going to make me cry. I'm choking up right now. I don't like this. Now that we're talking about this.
I love that song. I figured if you're going to be sitting around opening up my urn, you might as well get a chuckle.
All right, I don't know if I can handle the rest of this segment.
Oh my gosh, look at
this
you.
This never happens to me. There's not a sentimental bone in my body.
Mortality
what about these lyrics? Pain in my head, I'd rather be dead. I thought that was right on point.
Oh, God. All right, Joyce, please don't make this sad.
Oh, I don't know if this is going to be any better. But I might want to jump in that urn with you. Okay, so I thought about this and I thought, okay, is this for me? Well, maybe, but this is also for everybody who's listening. The very first thing that leapt to mind for me was probably the most beautiful pieces of music I have heard ever. It's one of my most favorite pieces of music I've ever heard my entire life. And it has inspired so many people, including Boston Ballet. Who else? Oh, Hamnet. It was on the soundtrack to Hamnet.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so this is...
So you went classy.
I went... You know, it's interesting. It's old and new. It's a piece by Max Richter. It's based on Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. Okay. It's a reinterpretation. It's a reinterpretation of The Four Seasons. And to me, it suggests infinity, the endless passage of time.
It is beautiful.
It's dense. It's fluid. It erases the boundaries between all of us and nature. It's sad and happy, and I chose spring because it's beginnings, and I like to think of endless beginnings every day. I like to think of each day as like whatever I did yesterday and messed up, I get another chance today. I used to think about TV the same way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's okay, that's over. We're going to start again fresh. So I love that, and you can almost hear birds tweeting in it. Okay, so here it is.
We'll play it now.
Yeah.
I want my urn to be next to both of your urns. That's so beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
That's really gorgeous.
Yeah, it just gets me. And
I
I think
that's
it's
for
timeless.
other people then when they open up your urn. They'll enjoy that.
So mine, I chose a song that I think is very fitting for my urn, but it's also a song that very oddly in the life I've lived so far has appeared at moments that are of natural closure, whether they be good or bad. And so it's a song that whenever I hear it, it brings me back to those moments. It brings me a lot of joy. It brings me some sadness, but mostly joy because I love the upbeat nature of it. I'm not even gonna. Let's just play mine. I won't tell you who it is. Everybody's gonna recognize it. Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day, and that is all. It's weird sometimes how songs come into your life as you need them and do represent a demarcation. So it's really interesting. We all contribute stories to this show for the Friday show. When I saw this, I thought, okay, this is gimmicky.
Yeah. That was my first thought.
But then
we can't do this.
But then you realize that not only do we think about the soundtrack to our lives, but what really will define our lives? And Joyce, you made the comparison to Desert Island Discs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think about this every now and then. If I had to pick out one song for the rest of my life, what would it be and how hard that is? But it also throws me back to, based on everything we've all said here today, what artists give us,
right?
What they express, the inexpressible things that cannot be done any other way except through either music or dance or sculpture, whatever it is, and how we need them more than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I also could have gone gospel because I thought about Walter Hawkins, going way up yonder. Could have gone that way, but if I was going to be serious, but I decided I wanted to be a little bit cheeky.
It's all the dimensions of our personality.
Yes.
I think we all went for poignancy at the end, which is interesting that we all went for poignancy at the end of the road.
Yes. There you go.
Yes, no one gets out of here alive.
No.
Well, I definitely need a moment to collect myself, so we're going to go to break. Coming up, as war intensifies in the Middle East, we'll look at what the conflict means not just for people in politics, but for the museums, monuments, and cultural treasures caught in the crossfire. That and more is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Nearly a week since the U.S. and Israel began launching missiles at Iran and killed the country's supreme leader, Iran continues to hit back at U.S. allies in the Gulf.
It is about causing as much political and social pain to Westerners and to try to punish the United States as well for the assassination of Khamenei.
I'm Juana Summers, how the war is impacting the region on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Boston Lyric Opera, presenting Mahler's Song of the Earth, a staged production that fuses symphony and theater, featuring Rhianne Bryce Davis and more, March 20th through 29th at the Opera and Community Studios. Tickets at blo.org. And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com. And Innuendo in Natick, presenting Hunter Douglas Duet Architella PowerView shades for your home and office. Hunter Douglas PowerView automation, measured and installed by their technicians at Innuendo and innuendo.com.
Wherever you are, you can stream GBH 89.7 on the GBH News app. From your kitchen to your commute, stay connected with expert interviews and trusted local news. Download the GBH News app today on the App Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen here in our Brighton studio. I'm joined by Culture Show co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhawick, an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association, and you can find her reviews on joyceschoices.com. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes the Middle East, where the Iran war is putting cultural heritage at risk. Airstrikes and shelling are threatening and already damaging historic landmarks across the region, from Tehran's Golistan Palace to the Bauhaus buildings of Tel Aviv's UNESCO-protected White City. So, of course, we're acknowledging that this includes more than 1,200 people have been killed. A lot of innocent people have been killed within the last few days of the onset of this war. We're also mindful of what's at risk culturally. Of course, this is an area of the world that dates back to, well, the whole planet does, but we have representations of so many civilizations and eras. And while these cities and buildings and manuscripts and artifacts may be protected by UNESCO status, which has provided geographical coordinates to the fighters, it doesn't mean that these are protected, and we're seeing the first ravages of this.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to note that since this show started, there's been an ongoing conversation about what happens to those communities under assault, whether there be the largest kinds of assault we're seeing now, designated as a war, or even some other kind of smaller cultural struggles on the ground, that this has been, which is kind of shocking if you think about it, that this has been an ongoing and in various places around the world. So here we are with this, and I note that they would like to keep the art galleries open, for example. And then I thought to myself, okay, so they're open, but now who's going to go?
Yeah.
Because it really is a threat risk, and I'm not certain that if I'm going to go outside in the middle of this uncertainty and very clear they're going to keep sending the missiles, of all the places I'm going to go, that's probably not where I'm going. Yeah. And then secondarily to that, then I thought, somebody's going to hit one of these, and then it's gone. You can't replace.
And every time that happens, my heart breaks because it's just irretrievable. It's ancient. It's forever, and we have people actively destroying our history and our culture. I would like to see all of these places closed now. I'd like to see not just the artists safeguarded, but the works brought underground and in basements so that they are protected. But it's also
a massive undertaking.
It is a massive undertaking. I am also painfully aware that in Iran, specifically in many other places in the world, artists have been under attack since 1979 because of the repressive regime in Iran.
Well, we'll talk more about that in a moment, but to your point, some of course, you can't shroud or bring an entire palace underground, or these bridges that date back to the 800s underground. And this is exactly what they're facing in cities like Isfahan right now. This is what we talked about, Tehran, the Golestan Palace. We're already seeing the destruction of ancient windows and ancient mosaics. Yes, they may have been able to ferry out some of the artifacts inside, but the buildings themselves are in some level of destruction, right to Tel Aviv. So this isn't happening only in Iran, but as I mentioned too, the Bauhaus buildings that seem to have sustained less destruction, but certainly have. And Kelly, I had the same thought as I was thinking, going through all of this research this morning. I thought we have done this so many times already, and the Culture Show is only just over 2 years old.
Yes, I mean it's been a strong theme. The other thing is I thought was interesting this so far Saudi Arabia has not closed its galleries. Now again, who's going? But they're open at the moment.
Yeah, there's an Art Dubai fair, though, that is going to go on in April, and that's still going to happen. But again, tourism has dropped, so they're wondering who's even going to come. That's the issue.
And April is that I don't know.
It's around the corner. We have no idea.
But Joyce, now to go back to your point, therein lies the complexity of this. That we have a number of artists who were in Iran, who, especially over the last few months, who have been murdered, who would be hanged, who have been shot. We have artists here in this country who have come to this country because they have been exiled from their own homeland, because there is no freedom of expression. Any exhibitions that happen in Iran, any official exhibitions, that is, because some do happen on the underground at great risk to their lives, to the artists' lives, but any exhibition has to get approval, until this moment, from the government in order to go forward. Just a couple of years ago, I talked to Argavan Khosravi. She is an Iranian artist who has a lot to say about being a woman in Iran, can no longer say that from Iran. So she's here in the United States, and we spoke in 22 about what she had to say about her experience as a female artist there and what it means to now be here away from her homeland.
When we go to school, we had to wear hijab, and there are things that you must do to comply with those rules. They're usually mostly not very positive. So for me, reacting to those memories in the paintings is somehow a way also to cope with those often traumatic experiences. In contrast with what I'm saying in the paintings, I have freedom to say whatever I want to say.
And depending how this ends, she may have an opportunity to go back to her homeland and say what she wants to say.
I would also like to add that we can't forget about our filmmakers, and this affects the Oscars actually this year. Iranian filmmaker Jafar Panahi, his movie, It Was Just an Accident.
That's right.
It was selected as France's submission. It was shot secretly in Iran. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. It's based on his own experience as a political prisoner. And in the movie, these former political prisoners come upon their tormentors once they're freed, and they have to figure out what to do with them. Take their revenge.
They think they're their tormentors.
They think they are. They're not sure. It's a whole,
right.
it's a whole. But then they're pretty sure, but they're not. But in any case, he made this film, and he said he made it because he had to unburden himself. When he left prison, when he was finally released, he turned around and he looked at the gate behind which many of his friends still resided. And he said he carried that burden for days and then weeks and then months until finally he felt he had to make this film. Again, this is what our artists do. They're out there expressing the unexpressible and what needs to be said in front of the entire world.
And I would add about that film specifically that if you didn't have a good sense of what repression really means in these areas, it's an excellent film, and it's not an eat your spinach. It is a shocking, keep your eyes open the whole time, and at the end you're like, whoa!
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was just an accident.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Yes.
Well, and it's great that these artists who have also had exposure here. The Argavan Kosavi, for instance, was shown at both the Rose Art Museum at Brandeis and at the Carrier Museum in New Hampshire. And the Davis Museum prior had Parviz Tanavoli, who's another artist who was frequently raided in his home, his sculptures taken away. And I think these are stories that a lot of people don't know. It's a culture that we can't even really necessarily imagine because we take art for granted. It's been tested here in this country, but these are regular circumstances.
That these regimes find these artists so dangerous.
Well,
this is what's so incredible. I've made a sculpture. And they understand right away this is dangerous because it's a through line to how people really feel and can incite people.
Well, because art is windows and doors. So I want to say, if there's a positive thing which is going to come out of the brutality, is that at this moment while we speak, there are artists that we don't know of. Those who were not identified, those who are capturing and reflecting what's happening on the ground right now. And we will see that work because they're going to make sure, because here's the thing about artists, they can't not do the work.
Exactly.
They have to do the work.
Exactly. Just like Panahi, who had to make that film.
Yes.
Apparently, there's something called a third space.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, where artists communicate in coded, metaphorical ways. But I love what you just said, Kelly. They have to be artists. They are mouthpieces, and they must express their truth.
So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this.
Yes, we will also continue to follow that. Well, coming up, this is a strange transition on this one. This show is sliding every which way today. Coming up, one burger battle after another. We'll break down the beef that Burger King and now Wendy's has with McDonald's and the rollout of their big arched double patty burger. That and more is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
As the war in Iran continues with no end in sight, we bring you the voices of Iranians trying to live their lives. You know that at any moment a bomb can land on your house and kill you, this man says, but you get used to it. A week of war in Iran and more global news next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Delaney at the Vale, a luxury senior living rental community for adults 62 plus, where residents choose how to spend their time with amenities and programming designed to offer opportunities for connection and learning. DelaneyAtTheVale.com. And Boston College, with its year-long in-person fellowship, Boston College Companions. Accomplished professionals can reflect together, explore new directions, and consider the next step on their journey. More at bc.edu/nextchapter. And Safety Insurance, offering auto insurance policies designed to help for when the worst happens. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms.
Your trusted local news, covering the stories that matter to you. Stay informed and stay connected on the GBH News YouTube channel. Subscribe and watch on your phone, tablet, or smart TV. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, this is The Culture Show, coming to you from our Brighton studio and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. We do believe that we'll be able to be back at the library next week now that all of our technical upgrades have happened. So we look forward to seeing you there, as always, for The Culture Show on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm joined here in Brighton by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhawick. We're going over the latest headlines in our Arts and Culture Week in Review. This week, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. declared war on sugary coffee drinks, and that means dunking on Dunkin. In Massachusetts, the backlash has been wicked loud and caffeinated, with politicians rallying to defend the chain, social media erupting, and a clear message from iced coffee country: don't mess with Dunkin. So, all right, I have to say, and I am somebody who likes to have my Dunkin' occasionally, and I like to have Dunkin' regular, which means cream and sugar, which, by the way, you can't order anywhere outside of Massachusetts. What does that mean? Regular.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant.
When you order a regular, it's in there.
Yeah, we have our code here in Massachusetts. Yeah. There is a lot of sugar. And Callie, you and I both watch CBS in the morning, the news show. And the other day, they held up, did you see that? The vial of sugar. It was more than a vial. It was basically a little mini bucket of the sugar that goes into this coffee. This should be pointed out to us.
Absolutely.
I don't mind the pointing out. Here's the thing. About that regular thing. When I first moved here, I asked for my coffee regular, which I meant black.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? When they gave it to me. We're like,
outsiders.
It was like, this is regular. Anyway, my point is, yes, there is a lot of sugar in it. Yes, he can point it out, but let's be consistent. Yeah, Mr. Secretary. He's all over the place, and it makes no sense. He claims that his attention is really about teens who are, buying all of these sugary drinks. First of all, how many teens have this much money to be buying these drinks all week? That's another story. Okay, but it's really adults who have responded thus far, saying, you don't get to tell me what I choose to do. I am well aware. On the walls now, from the past, we now have the caloric information and some of the other information. You can add that if you choose to. But even he said at one point, Americans should feel free to drink a Coke or eat a donut if that's what they want, as long as they know the risks. Okay? 60 Minutes, he was talking about this. But this is crazy.
I have to take exception. I have to say, and I find this odd because I really don't agree with most of what RFK Jr. says, but he finds himself in the interesting position of somehow being aligned with science this time. And it's true. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount of sugar in a particular drink that's already pre-made, it's horrible for you. And we do have standards. FDA has standards, and it's called the GRAS, the generally recognized
as safe
practices. Right. So if you have some sugar and you have some caffeine, it's okay. But when you have massive quantities baked into products and they're in the form of refined carbohydrates and ultra-processed foods, suddenly they are dangerous. I think, yes, our attention should be called to them. And I think number 2, yes, and number 2, you should be paying a penalty or maybe have a tax on those drinks that cause people
for grown people.
For what people?
For grown people.
Grown people. Yes, just like cigarettes. Just like cigarettes. They're harmful. You can smoke them, but now we have a big tax on those things, and they're a little bit prohibitive because they're so expensive. But and they have big warning labels on them. We did not know, I think, until we've seen generations of people who've had their taste buds what's the word I want? Inculcated with a desire for sugar, which is addictive at certain levels.
There was that film Fed Up.
Yes,
Supersize Me.
But also Fed Up, which says that sugar is more than, in rats, sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
Absolutely.
So
this is now an unsafe ingredient, and we should close that loophole, and he is not wrong to get on that because we have an epidemic, and then I'll stop, of diabetes and obesity.
Okay, agreeing with all of that, let me underscore what our governor, Maura Healey, said back to him, because his focus is on teens. That's why I ask you, is this for grown people? Because grown people can make a different kind of... Well, it is, but his focus is on teens. And Maura Healey's response was, why don't you make it so that, they have measles vaccine so they're not dead, so we don't have to worry about how much sugar they're drinking?
That's a deflection.
Oh, I think it's right on point.
Well, he was suggesting that this could be pulled, and there was a legal scholar in the Boston Globe who said it's legally feasible but unlikely. But I was just struck by, Callie, what you said. Yes, we see the calorie count now. What I do want to see produced from these companies is what exactly are we ingesting? And that's the whole thing about the generally recognized as safe practices. We're just consuming this stuff. So maybe this is the next level, is that we start to have what the ingredients are.
On this.
Look at now she's filibustering and talking.
This is unhealthy. This is unhealthy.
I would be on board with what Jared said, because I have to say those postings of the calories on the wall are very effective.
And they're also
very
untrue
effective.
most of the time.
What do you mean they're untrue?
They're not often true. When you go to the movie theater and they tell you how much is in a bucket of popcorn, because sometimes I get that. Oh. Yeah, they've minimized them.
Oh, well, the ones that are up there that you go, wait a minute, how much?
Yeah.
Because you really didn't think about it before. Yeah. So that's been helpful for a lot of folks. Yes. So, I mean, there's ways to deal with it. He needs to clean his own house first. You know what I mean? He's telling people to eat beef tallow and everything. I'm just sorry. Get consistent, and then maybe I can hear you.
We don't know what's in our food. We need to find out.
And I think this has negated us having to even talk about the 48-ounce bucket.
Please!
That Dunkin' Donuts has just introduced.
That's a lot.
Does this mean you like your coffee at all temperatures? Because it doesn't take
you a while. Well, it's supposed to be, I think it's for iced coffee.
Is it just iced coffee?
It's iced coffee.
Oh, okay. Which you carry around like a paint bucket.
And full disclosure, I am a hot black coffee drinker all year round.
So. And I used to drink my coffee with sugar, and then I learned how to drink it without. Now I can't stand the sugar.
Same here. Well, occasionally, it's my one little treat every once in a while.
Yeah. And I have a sweet tooth, I will say. I love sugar.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So anyway, here we go.
Well, speaking of RFK Jr., McDonald's is following his meat-forward nutritional guidelines bigly. This week, the fast food franchise unveiled the Big Arch, a beefed-up burger weighing about a half pound and packing more than 1,000 calories. It's built to be big in every way, but in the rollout video, the company's CEO took a McMicro, McCautious, McCalorie-phobic bite, making a big mistake. In case you missed it, here's McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczinski with his wee taste test.
Chris K here with the Big Arch. I love this product. It is so good. I'm going to do a tasting right now, but I'm going to eat this for my lunch, just so you know. So here we go. First, holy cow. God, that is a big burger. We've got a very unique kind of sesame poppy sort of bun on it. Oh, there's so much going on with this. First of all, let's try to get this thing. I don't even know how to attack it. Got so much to it. All right, the moment of truth.
Yeah, enough. There are some people.
Good. That's a big bite for a big arch.
Well, that was the whole thing. It wasn't a big bite. It was a wee little bite for a man who has never eaten a burger in his entire life.
Well, he may have never been on television before. I mean, there's some people who should
social
never
media person should be
do
fired.
this,
Come
right?
on. Somebody let him out.
Some people can make you believe anything. This guy couldn't make you believe anything.
About the product. He didn't even say burger.
He said, because he's a numbers guy. So this wasn't a burger. It was a product.
Well, we're TV people. You look at it, you can see it was edited. And yet nobody thought to think, well, maybe we should take another take. Who decided to cut away to that wee, tiny little bite where he just barely nibbled? He was like a hamster nibbling on the side of the bun.
Looked like he was allergic to it. I mean, it was like, it's like, no, what you're trying to communicate. Some people could do that even if they hated burgers because they're good at communicating on this
What I love about
level.
it is that Burger King and then the Canadian A&W people and the Wendy's people have all responded so well.
I looked at their CEOs. You should look at the the Burger King CEO. He takes a big bite out of that Whopper, and it looks delicious.
We can't look at him on the radio, although we can see him on our GBH News YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
But
the Wendy's guy.
We can play the sound.
Yes.
So here is his competitor at Burger King, their president, Tom Curtis, taking a much manlier munch of the fast food chain's signature Whopper.
Not bad, right?
Only one thing missing. A napkin.
Because he took such a big bite, it was all over his face.
But he looks like he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted a bite out of that Whopper after I saw him take a bite.
I have to get one after this show because I have now become a burger people after talking.
And Wendy's, fresh, never frozen. Those patties look delicious.
I know. And then the Canadian A&W guy invited the McDonald's guy, why don't you come to lunch with me? We like burgers. That's what we call them here.
The one thing I was struck by is the previous president and CEO of McDonald's was fired for having a relationship with an employee, something that the HR department.
There was, I don't think. The person before him.
So this is what you get. So the HR had to get rid of the guy because that's a no-no when you're the CEO. I don't think it was inappropriate. I think he just had an employee relationship. So of course they replaced him with a Boy Scout, and then this is what you get when you have a Boy Scout who, as many people have pointed out,
based on the way this guy attacked that burger,
somebody could direct him. though. Come on.
I wonder what he's like in more intimate moments. We can only imagine.
Well, I'm very curious to know about how the sales are going. This was supposed to be like a limited run, but now they're thinking about making it permanent in many places, as it has become in Britain and some other places where it's doing very well.
It's a bad name. The Arch? Wow, sounds delicious.
Yeah, exactly.
How about the Big Bite or something delicious
Well,
sounding?
I don't go to McDonald's anyway, so...
The Arch?
I'm not contributing.
We'll send our intellectual property ideas to them. Well, next, when it comes to enjoying the theater, you don't need a cast of thousands. More audiences are showing up to shows alone. And Ambassador Theater Group is leaning into the trend with special solo seat nights. I think that this is so fascinating because I think the three of us here see a lot of theater because we love it, but also it's our job, and so we're very used to going alone. And I think, I don't know, you can each say obviously what you think, but I don't even think anything of it now when I go to that. The only thing I don't think I could go to alone would be a concert. But ATG, Ambassador Theater Group, is leaning into this because they're recognizing how many people the world over, especially here in the United States, are living independent lives. There are more people who are not married in terms of adults than who are married. So they recognize opportunity here. Let's educate people, make them feel comfortable. And in this case, in San Francisco, they're doing it by giving a discounted seat. They're giving a free drink and a little mixers event right before the show.
It's so smart. First of all, nearly 20% of Broadway theater tickets are now being purchased by solo folks. I have never thought it was odd to go by yourself. For one thing, it becomes a whole deal if you're trying to match up your time with somebody else. Just go. That's if it's something you really want to see.
Yeah.
And so I love it that they're making it more comfortable. It's really important to underscore that this is not a singles thing.
I love
They're
this.
not doing that. This is, if you hook up with somebody there, that's on you. But that's not the point of this. The point is to make people who come alone feel comfortable. So I have to then just share in the waning days of the Wiz's tour here in Boston, because I love some of the songs, I got myself, it's not unusual for me to go by myself, a solo ticket, but it was in the Citizens Opera House, and there was a seat way up in the orchestra to the right. So it was just me. I had all my stuff down next to me, and I could lustily sing No, Don't Nobody Bring Me No Bad News.
Oh,
and no
I want
one
video
could
of that.
hear me, and I'm tapping my foot, and I'm just having a ball. So I'm all about this.
You make an excellent point. I mean, the whole point of going to the movies to me and the theater is the movie, is the theater. It isn't the meal. I hate people eating next to me. I don't even want a meal. I mean, because I can't enjoy my food and enjoy the thing. It's too much sensual overload.
I can do that.
But yeah, no, I don't want that. I don't want fine dining when I'm going to the movies. But I love the idea that the focus is on the thing and that you're not going because you want to hook up or meet somebody. It's not tangential to some social interaction, and it's to validate validate that being alone and having these experiences can be wonderful. And in the process, you're going to meet an awful lot of other people just like you who want to have that experience.
Well, and the important thing to remember is that nobody's looking at you.
Right.
Nobody is looking at you thinking, oh, look at that poor guy from,
we all
from
think
PBS
that, right?
NPR who's sitting all by. Nobody is looking at me. Everybody is looking at the show. I also just realized that I'm not necessarily alone because, especially with the case in Joyce, they always put us together. And Sheehan at Broadway in Boston always puts us together. Jim Torres at Speakeasy Station always puts us together.
And then we stand up in the aisle during intermission and we all have, hold court and people come over and say hello. But I will be honest and say that I many times and maybe even most times prefer to go alone.
The only difference is when the subject matter, a play like Doubt, for instance, where you need to talk to somebody about it after. And the most recent show at Central Square Theater, you need to talk about it after. That's the only time I miss it. But yeah, sometimes logistically, as you both have said, it's just too complicated.
But I just want to have my own thing. I mean, when I go to the movies often, it's on the opening day of the film. So I will go to the first show of the day, which is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's dark, and I may be alone in the theater. I love that. I love it. It's like a private screening, and I think it's important to say that for the three of us, though, we are always interested in the thing, and so we're not intimidated by going alone. Yeah. And we've been going forever. So there are people, which I'm always amazed by, who really feel like somebody is paying attention to them, and they will be outed in some way, and then that'll impair their enjoyment of it. So we're here to say that I think this is a brilliant idea. Yes. And that they will be supported in that. If you want to talk to somebody, you can, because there will be others. If you don't want to talk to somebody, you don't have to. That being alone is legit. Exactly. This is a legit alone activity. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and the final thing I'll say on this is if a show is really good, you'll find your seatmate turning to you wanting to talk about it. And that's really exciting.
Unexpected connections. Exactly. Yes, yeah, I love this.
And I'm not just talking about Joyce sitting next to you. Anybody sitting next to you.
Sorry, I'd rather be alone.
When she's wearing her turban, don't talk to her.
So, do you know Greta Garbo and I share the same birthday?
Of course you do.
September 18th. I want to be alone. Different year, though, I will add. Yeah. I'm glad you added that.
I'm glad to know, because I wasn't sure. I'm just kidding. Don't send emails. All right, well, now it's time for our weekend preview. I've gone from tearing up to now blushing and being all red. Our weekend preview, this is a rundown of the arts and culture events we are looking forward to. Callie, what's on your list?
So they have Maple Days at the Old Sturbridge Village. They're tapping in and getting the maple syrup, and you can watch that. It's, an all ages thing that I think is, I always like process, so I don't want to do that process, but I like to look at the process. But I think there are maybe opportunities if you want to have some way to enjoy them, actually hands-on activity with it. But anyway, it's going on for a few days, and I think it's fabulous.
We have neighbors who actually tap their own maple trees and have given us and I'm thinking, I want to do that with that maple tree that I have. Mine is I'm thinking about the Oscars, and we just had the SAG Awards this past week, and it's really tipped the Oscars in a new direction. Sinners really came out by winning the Ensemble Award and
Best Actor.
Best Actor Michael Jordan. So now it's really up for grabs. There's probably only one category that's a sure thing, and that would be Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. But everything
K-pop
else,
Demon Hunter song, Golden.
Of course. Well, it goes without saying, right? Okay, the global super hit. But so it's going to be a very exciting Oscars race, and I think this past weekend really kind of made that even more up in the air than it had been before. And I think Timothée Chalamet's hopes may be dashed. I don't know. We'll see.
He can get another turn.
Exactly.
He will get another turn. But this is the time where all the office pools happen, where people are completing their Oscar ballots, and it's really hard this year.
It's shifting right now. The voting literally closed. What's today? March 5th? Today's the 6th. 6th.
Yeah.
It closed yesterday then. Just closed. Right. So while the SAG was going on and people saw all of that incredible momentum there, people were still voting, and I think it would be influential. So we will see.
I'll be very interested.
Well, mine takes us to Mass Art, to the Mass Art Museum, which is always free admission, and they have a really fantastic show right now called Masako Miki Midnight March. And she was born in Japan and grew up with this myth of the Midnight March, and it was this notion that there were all of these demons who came out in the middle of the night, and all the townspeople had to lock themselves in their homes because the boundary between human world and the demon world was breaking down. And she's taken a cue from, I think, not that she's copying him, but it's a similar thing of what Gregory Maguire has done with Wicked, where he reconceived the notion of the Wicked Witch, and is she really wicked? Well, in her case, she's looking at, well, what if they're not really bad demons? What if they're lovely, fuzzy, huggable demons that you want to embrace? Don't embrace them, by the way. Yeah. Because they're made of felt and they're really, really sensitive. But you enter into this gallery at the Mass Art Museum, and Masako Miki herself helped design this space. So she helped design the floor, the walls, the theatrical lighting to make it feel like you're in this midnight march. And it's totally experiential and really, really enjoyable. So I highly recommend
that space
that
is
show.
so extraordinary.
And you can go up too, because there's a balcony, and then you can overlook all of the creatures too. It's super fun. Well, thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. A reminder that our next Wednesday watch party is Wednesday, March 18th. We're revisiting Martin Scorsese's classic film Taxi Driver, which turns 50 this year. We hope you rewatch it or watch it for the very first time and call in or join us at the Boston Public Library to let us know how it holds up. Tune in Monday when I talk to 2 cast members of the Tony-winning hit show Stereophonic, which comes to the Emerson Colonial Theater next week. Callie, what's coming up on Under the Radar?
We are doing our twice-a-year conversation with our AAPI experts ahead of the Oscars, looking at Asian representation across the board, both in Hollywood and Oscar-nominated films and also streaming and TV. And it's fabulous conversation. Fabulous.
We'll look forward to that. Joyce, you're always posting on Joyce's Choices. What can people be directed to on your site right now?
Oh, I'm still working on a review of Wuthering Heights.
Oh, boy.
Which I have to say, I love that the Bronte sisters are back in the conversation.
That's right.
You know, I mean, this is fantastic, as is Jacob Elordi, but that's conversation for another time.
Well, I saw it with Marjorie a couple of weeks ago. And don't. That's my review. Although we did love our popcorn.
Did she pass out?
No, I don't mean don't go with Marjorie. Just don't go see the film.
I'm telling Marjorie.
No, that is not what I was saying. Oh, boy. I don't have a career after today. The Culture Show crew is Max Chowdhulik, Kate Dellis, Chelsea Murs. Our engineer is Dave Goodman. Our intern is Anna Hu. Angelica Marrero produced today's YouTube live stream. I'm Jared Bowen. Be sure to take a big bite out of the art world offerings and have a culture-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH's All Things Considered is coming up this afternoon at 4, with Marketplace at 6:30. But first, get a global view of the news with The World. Up next, here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Babson College, where students can learn to lead with impact and become a